Welcome to episode 161 of the Reptile Gumbo podcast. I have both my co-hosts
Yay! At least this week.
for this week. We'll see what happens next week.
Girl Scouts.
Our guest is, I'm saying not running late. I knew our guest wouldn't be here at 7, so they'll be here later. But we can go ahead and get started.
Mm-hmm.
You want to pump out sponsor stuff real quick?
Sure. If you're looking for a high quality PVC rack, look no further than Lone Star Reptile Racks. They offer a variety of sizes for all types of snakes, geckos, rats, and more. You can even order something custom. Shipping is available, or you can plan to pick up at a Herps Reptile show near you. Visit ellisreptileracks.com to reach out to Lone Star Reptile Racks and place your order today.
Yeah. Get your shit.
Yay.
Robert needs to make shit, and you need to buy shit. Just lots of shit.
Mm-hmm.
I can hear dogs barking.
Yeah, she's going to bark until
Fucking dogs.
it'll be fine. Just block it out, man.
You know who doesn't bark? Snakes.
Nope.
And they also don't pee in my house.
But Millie knows that there's all
In
these
my house.
people in the house that she doesn't get to visit with.
God, there's a lot of
Yeah.
people in my house. Oh, anyways. Also, Herps. So let's out the Herps shows. The next show is Austin, Texas.
Yep. It's usually a really good show.
Hopefully that's a good show. That is April 22nd and 23rd in Austin, Texas. And then
Earth Day weekend.
Earth Day weekend.
Earth Day is the 25th.
Good to know.
So the 22nd is the Saturday that most people will celebrate Earth Day.
People celebrate Earth Day.
Yeah. There's actually a really big event in
There's
Pearland.
still
Yeah,
hippies.
Megan's going to be doing a
Yeah.
snake education
Mhm.
at it.
It's a very educational thing. You go and you learn all about the earth and ways you can help protect the earth and
Hippies
do
still
better
exist.
things. And
I'm actually listening to a Joe Rogan podcast right now with a guy who studies psychedelics. That's a hippie,
yeah.
That is-
but he's got me intrigued.
in trying psychedelics or
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
In about a month is our Pearland show,
The first weekend of May.
May
Mhm.
6th and 7th. Looking forward to that.
I'm looking forward to
Mhm.
that.
No hotel costs.
No travel.
Lake Charles is June 3rd and 4th.
Yep.
That's that's during the summer vacation, so I'm looking forward to that.
And then Conroe's right after that.
June 10th and 11th, and then
When does school in for you guys?
into May.
We get out
May.
I think it's May 26th
Oh, so
or May
last night
27th, whatever that Friday is.
when we left the show in Slidell, we were all hungry, so we stopped at the Cracker Barrel right there in Slidell and Gauss. And our waitress was awesome, but she was telling us she's a teacher in one of those school districts right there on Slidell. And she's like, "Yeah, I have to work here on the weekends to make a living."
Mm-hmm.
And so I was telling her about you guys, and she's like, "Any good looking men in Texas? I've been single for 8 years. If I can go there and make more money and find a husband, I'm in."
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
It
Yes, she
pay
probably
better
could.
here. Yeah. After Conroe, June 24th, 25th is the Shreveport show. I'm interested to see how that one goes. That's replacing the Longview show that weekend.
It's got 20 something billboards up
Does it really?
going.
Mhm.
I mean, you got Shreveport, Bossier City, and then you got Mississippi there too. So I mean, that has possibility of being good.
So I'm excited about it because it will be a new batch of customers.
If we go, we're gonna go eat at Strawn's.
So you can get strawberry pie.
Hell yes.
I'm gonna have to go there even if you don't go.
Oh my gosh. I just want pie.
And then July 22nd, 23rd, back to Slidell, which you were just at
Mhm.
Slidell this weekend.
It was a busy show. Not as busy as normal.
Which is weird because that's normally a really good show.
So I'm looking at my numbers from the last, this is my 4th year now. This is always my worst of the 3 Slidells,
Oh, this one,
which is weird.
right at tax time.
Yes.
Huh.
Strange. Like just looking at the numbers, this is the one I do the worst at every time.
That's so weird.
I had one December show that wasn't good, but that was like 2021. When right after the election, when everything sucked.
Oh yeah.
No, I guess that was 2020 when the election happened. Anyway, 2021 when the economy was really bad.
That was COVID too.
Yeah, so
That was after COVID.
Yeah.
that was but usually that December show is a killer.
Yeah.
It's the last show before Christmas. But it was just different. I mean, there was people there. It was just there's a lot of people right now that just aren't spending money. They're just kind of holding on to they're buying little things,
What are you looking for?
The fan isn't on.
It is not on.
Normally there's a fan on
Yeah.
in this room. I'm like, why is it so quiet in here tonight?
Like Callie and John's daughter sold like 30 something stickers and bracelets on Saturday.
Crushed it.
Made and then went to Walmart and bought herself more to make more.
I love
Nice.
it.
Put her money right back into it. So
Reinvest.
yeah. Yeah, it was
Well,
like Russell rode with us. He sold a lot. It was a lot of lizards. Like John said, because Callie worked for Andy's people on Saturday. And so John was over there by himself. Well, yeah, she worked both days, but he had one person look at hold a ball python, one person hold a corn snake, and those are the only two people who asked him a question about a snake all day.
Really?
But he sold a bunch of Pac-Man frogs and a bunch of spiders. And then Russell said the same thing. Sold all his bearded dragons on Saturday.
Crazy.
Yeah, he sold a bunch of lizards. It was like lizard day on Saturday.
That's weird.
But then on Sunday, they were selling snakes.
Well, you got 4 months. And then hopefully the one in 4 months will do well. It's July 22nd, 23rd.
Yeah.
And we're not going to Oklahoma City. But if you live near Oklahoma City, July 29th and 30th is the Oklahoma City show. And then down to Corpus Christi, August 12th and 13th, which we probably may or may not go to because that'll be when school is starting.
That'll be the week before kids show up. So
Gross. School is so much easier without kids there.
yeah.
Nasty ass kids. Anyways.
Mm-hmm.
I
mean, just saying, you have a master's degree, buddy. There's lots of other jobs out there.
Yeah, but this job pays well and it has summers off.
It's true. Those summers off are pretty.
It's honestly, it's the schedule more than anything else because all three of us in this house have the same schedule right now.
That's nice.
And that is
That's
very nice to be able to go and do things.
That is rare, in the world for all three people.
Right.
To have the same schedule.
It makes vacation planning very easy.
Yeah, I bet, because you can look at the schedule a year from now.
Yep.
And see what
as soon as they vote on the calendar for the next year, there we are.
Yeah, and if you were working somewhere else, you'd only have like 2 weeks off, and
then have to plan it around. But yeah, right. Pain in the ass.
And I would say that we're probably going to be going to 4-day weeks, but we're in Texas now, not Louisiana.
A lot of places in Texas have gone to 4-day.
Yeah, there's a lot of schools doing
everything around Rapides Parish in Louisiana is voted for 4-day weeks for next year. As long as you do it correctly, it's a beautiful thing.
A lot of
really
places are doing it here too, and the only big hurdle that you have to overcome is pain in the ass parents that think teachers are babysitters, and they go, "Oh, what do I do with my kids on that extra day?" That's your fucking kid. You decided to have a crotch goblin. That's your problem,
right? Yeah, it's not the school's responsibility to be your babysitter.
No. It's the same thing. You have to figure out what you're going to do with them in the summer.
And I've also seen people that are like, well, my tax is going to be 20% less since we're losing 1 day of school a week.
No, we still go to the same amount of days. Right. It's just that now we're going to go different amounts of time.
It just always amazes me when people think like when we got like some of those snow days and then it doesn't actually snow and people forget, well, now we're closed and I got my kids home. I'm like, okay. People just don't realize that it's the folks that I guess work 9 to 5 Monday through Friday who forget that the majority of the world doesn't, and there's a whole bunch of people that are working on the weekends, and they have to find something for their kids to do on the weekends because there's no school. Anyways, get off my soapbox there.
Yeah.
Vivtech. If you need light bulbs, Vivtech, reach out to them, get you some LED UVB light bulbs. Use code Gumbo22 to save 15%. They just got the jungle cover. I think it's jungle cover bulbs.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So we got to reach out and get some for someone's new chameleon that's coming. And we got to get Mr. and Cage and all the other shit.
I have actually already got some stuff ordered. It's coming in this week.
Yeah, but you don't have the expensive stuff ordered.
I have one of them, yes.
Ooh, what are we getting?
Well, you'll find out when they get here.
But it's for you. I want to know what it is.
The Mister's coming.
Where'd you order it?
Are we really going to talk about this now?
Because I had a way of getting it cheaper. Anyways,
you can always return it.
Yeah, we can do that.
That is true. Also, just want to plug our Patreon. I never plug our Patreon.
I always forget we have one.
Well, so I feel bad. We don't do anything extra. So I don't want to be like, oh, go do our Patreon, because we're not one of those that put out like 5 extra videos a week on Patreon. We don't do that. But the podcast does cost something. And if you like listening to it, it's not just this, because we're having someone on tonight who's also got their own podcast, and podcasts cost money. And I think people think that when we have a podcast, it's just like you make money, but I make nothing off of this.
I'd love to see some of that money.
I would love for things to not come out of my bank account to pay for this podcast. I'm just going to throw that out there to the world.
But I enjoy like so. Look, people using our code for VivTech really helped us this year. We were able to get extra mics, which came in handy at some of the shows.
That has been really great.
So that was
Robert
great.
got some headphones that actually
Robert got
function.
headphones that work, so we can hear out of both ears.
Yeah, I can hear out of both ears. It's great.
So just, I think I plug like once a year, but if you like listening to our podcast, and it doesn't have to be a lot, it can just be a couple of bucks a month. If everybody does a couple bucks a month, it would help cover, there's hosting fees and all this other stuff that I'm still going to pay no matter what, even if you don't do Patreon. I'm still going to pay it because I enjoy doing this. But yeah, if you have a podcast out that you like and they have some sort of way for you to pay a little bit, I mean, people will pay tons of money for all the streaming services, and I feel like this is a little more personalized than that.
Something to throw out there. I made a post on the discussion group on Facebook earlier today. So Robert actually had this idea a couple weeks back, months maybe. I found a tub of shirts, like just random sizes, random colors. Quite frankly, I just don't need them. I just don't. I don't need them in our house. And so I was thinking about taking the new logo that we have, the long alligator head, and just putting it on vinyl on a t-shirt. And if anybody wants to get one, I can ship it to them for $15.
Have you checked shipping cost?
Yeah, no, and like a small little, I have envelopes downstairs.
Okay.
I can roll it. I can put it in a Ziploc bag so it stays dry.
And get a shirt.
And then, I have no clue what sizes are in there. I have no clue what colors are in there, but I know that I have like youth small up to, I'm pretty sure I even have like some adult 5Xs.
Yeah.
So
there's that. And then also check out our store as well.
Yeah. So we've got I always forget we have that too, but
so just throw that out there. Help out podcast people. Not all of us have deep pocket.
Well, if people are interested in the shirts, I'm going to organize the shirt tub sooner rather than later. Like if people aren't interested, it's just going to go in the garage.
Where was it?
Let's just be real here.
Placing the chameleon in its adult enclosure or something smaller.
So he's actually a year old.
Yeah, he's a good size already.
So so we share the same birthday. So he will be a year old on June 12th. So he's going to go.
I'm ready to get him because we're only going to have him for like 4 more years. So
Shush, James.
Get some
James.
Well, I'm being. I mean, it's.
I don't have my necklace on. I'll have to post
a
picture. James bought me a chameleon necklace this weekend, and all my students thought it was the coolest thing today.
Yeah,
it's all colorful and bright.
I went and hung out at multiple wholesale jewelry places this weekend.
We checked out lots of Harwin this weekend and all the random stores.
It's awesome.
Holy moly! I was
your car didn't get broken into and
exhausted.
you don't get robbed. You're doing all right there.
I was exhausted by like 2:00.
Yeah.
I saw every piece of cheap jewelry you could find.
Oh yeah. If you want to buy stuff to sell, that's the place to go.
We had so much fun though.
But and then we got to go to.
If I'd have known you guys were doing that, I'd have sent you to a really good restaurant over there.
We went to.
Is it the one that Rachel took us to that one time? We've eaten there before.
Have y'all?
And then we went to Cider
She took us.
Yeah.
To the arcade. So
just the two of you?
No.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we met some friends.
But yeah, it was just adult. It was an adult day. It was beautiful.
Awesome.
But anybody that's never been to Cidercade, it's like a chain, but it's they have like hard ciders, and then they have like 150 plus all you can play arcade games. So we got
They're
there
family friendly
until 8
p.m.
and it was amazing. At 8 p.m. it went to like a quarter of the people, and there was no kids, and you could play any game you wanted.
And everybody was so polite. Like everybody was nice about like, here you go. Yeah. They literally walked through screaming at the top of their lungs. It is now 8 p.m. You have to be 21 or older. Goodbye. Have a great day.
Can't stay here.
It was beautiful.
You ain't got to go home, but your kids do.
And we ate at Big City Wings.
Big City Wings.
Because remember, we went to that place in New Orleans, the arcade that's right there off Bourbon Street.
Dave and Buster's?
No. It's like
I haven't been to Dave and Buster's.
It's like a little 80s theme place. Remember we went to Mama's and then we walked over there?
No.
Maybe it wasn't with you guys.
I don't think it was with us.
I don't think I've ever been to an arcade in New Orleans.
Other friends.
Oh, I've been there twice. I went once back when I worked.
He's allowed to have other friends.
Yeah, you went with other friends this weekend.
That's true.
Sir. I guess it wasn't you guys. And it's so fucking loud in there, you can't talk.
Oh no, this place.
I hate that.
This was loud until the kids left. Because there were several parties. I didn't realize how many tables they had for parties until I walked to the other side. And I was like, geez.
You guys did get to miss Drunk Bill dancing this weekend. It was wonderful. As always. So look, I found this house I'm looking for an Airbnb for Austin, and it's called the Chakra Casa, and every room has like a color theme, but it's like bright, interesting.
Oh, okay then.
Katie and I want to do a vacation on one of those the Wow Airbnbs.
The OMGs.
Oh, I haven't seen those.
It's a whole category on
like
Airbnb.
Fucking weird ass.
And it is weird.
Oh, this one should fit. It's yeah.
Talk some animal stuff. Let's see what's going on lately. I took my rubber boas out of the freezer.
Cool.
One
Never
pair.
felt love.
Yep. One pair has
to Robert.
decided that it does want to eat. 2 weeks in a row.
I've seen these.
Oh yeah, the weird one. 2 weeks in a row they've eaten, and then I have another pair who's like, yeah, we're not eating yet. So hopefully they start eating at some point because I need more.
Didn't you have a pair last year that did the same thing?
Yeah,
it took them longer.
It takes a little while to get ready,
and you can't tell which pair because they all look like brown.
No, they look different now.
Do they?
One pair is getting much darker and they're much larger.
Yeah,
the other pair is much lighter and smaller because they don't eat as much.
That's cool.
But when I feed them the same way you'd feed like any like nest raiders. I just throw a pile of pinkies in there and then come back and the pile of pinkies is gone.
Yeah, well, that's what they do in the wild.
They won't take shit from you on tongs, but if you leave a pile of pinkies, they'll gobble them up.
That's hilarious.
Yep. And then I fed so I went to feed my Louisiana pine snake. I got some quail, and so I was feeding this quail the other day, and I opened the tub and it launched out of the tub and onto the floor, entire body out of the tub.
Which one?
The big one.
Oh, the female.
Yeah, the male.
The male.
The female smaller. The male all the way out, smack on the floor. So I was like, all right. So I just left it there eating on the floor while I'm gonna clean the thing, get some water, do everything. And then I just grabbed it by the tail and put it back in because it's busy eating.
Right.
So, oh my God.
He launched his whole body out, scared the shit out of me.
I'm glad that he
That's
wasn't hurt.
A lot of snake coming out.
How high up?
Oh, he's on a low tub.
You're not gonna hurt
okay,
one of them.
Good.
Not like a boa smacking the ground.
No, but he
Jeez.
look, the Louisiana pine snakes, both of them have a feeding response unlike any other snake in that snake room. And it's crazy because it switches on because when they're not in feeding, they're also like reaching there, grab them, take them out. They're wonderful.
That's how Bandit is.
Yeah,
the Blue Beauty. He's super chilled. If you're not, but if there's a rat in the room, you're fucked.
So the doom rules. I had a small rat. I wasn't gonna feed the big snakes last night. I fed them a week ago, but I had a small rat that one of the ball pythons didn't eat. Fucking ball pythons. About to sell some ball pythons, but
so am I.
But I was like, oh, let's give it to the doom rules, and I didn't even like hold it to let them take it. So I just opened it and threw it in there, and then closed it. And then I moved, and then it was like, oh, it smells rat, and just started hitting the side of the glass. I'm like, dude, slow the fuck down and go find it. You're laying on top of it.
Yeah, or that big mama in the middle, she does that.
Yeah,
she'll like be her head's just going everywhere, and it's like it's fucking right there.
They get food blind.
Yeah.
Well, blind. I've never heard that.
I fed the our old corn snake, and he is blind.
Oh yeah.
So like,
bless him.
And the moment he lets go of it, and I left the tub open because I was dealing with some stuff, and I look over there, and here he is, like sticking his head out the tub, moving it here, moving it there, coming baback in. He never left the tub. He's just trying to figure out where the fuck the rat was, and it's sitting like right below him. We finally found it, and started eating it, but yeah, he can't see that well. He's got cataracts in both eyes.
He's so old though.
He's old. He's 7 to 18 years old, 18, 19.
Yeah.
Well, we got him in 2005, so 18, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 18. Because we got him in Daytona, our first Daytona that you and I went together.
So August will be 18 years that we've had him.
Yeah. Fucking old ass corn snake. But so yeah, I don't have much other animal stuff going on. I need to start pairing some Sambos up and make them pay for living here.
And yeah, those too.
Let's see who else we got. We only have 6 folks in the chat right now, but Focus Cube's in here. Sea Anal Side Exotics. That's how you pronounce it for sure. Oh, look, it's retic people. I say that we're going to be talking retics later, but it is Dax. We'll be talking retics with our guests later when they get here. This will be our second week in 3 weeks talking retics.
I know.
We're going to be retic experts.
Do you want to go ahead and talk about some Facebook stuff while we're still waiting on the guests? We can go ahead and knock that part out. Again, like I said, I've got all those shirts, and there's a part of me that's like, yeah, if people want them, I'll totally make them. But if people don't want them, they're just going to sit in the tub in the garage for now.
Yeah. So Nathan, I've seen this meme post around, and it really makes you think about how we how they draw dinosaurs, and it makes you think, do we really fucking know anything?
Oh yeah, no, we don't.
So it's the meme that shows a skull, and it is this weird fucking skull with all these giant teeth, and it's horrifying. And they draw the artist's depiction of it. It looks like this prehistoric big dinosaur, and then they show the actual animal, and it's a hippo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the skull of a hippo does not look like
A hippo.
a hippo because all the fat's not there. And
Right.
so you just think about like when you see these depictions of dinosaurs,
It's just a guess.
yeah, how close are we to bone and fat and muscle? Like, I mean, we got the bone, but fat and muscle, you know, that's just weird.
Oh yeah. So I started a new book this past week. It's
Okay.
called The Book of Hope. I know it's not really reptiles, but it's Jane Goodall. So, you know, she fits as far as I'm concerned. But anyways, this is a book that she wrote. I mean, she's one of the narrators because I'm listening to the audiobook on my lunch break. But it's the second book in a series. The first one was the Book of Joy, and it was with the Dalai Lama. But anyway, so this one is all about how, with everything she's done in the world and everything that she's seen and everything that she's tried to do for our world, how does she not lose hope? And she even talks, she's like, you know, look, with everything, with COVID and the quarantine and the shutdowns and this, that, and the other, she's like, it's really hard to keep hope alive. But it's really interesting.
Sounds interesting.
So what?
I didn't realize she was still alive.
Yeah.
She's 89.
Yeah.
This is going to sound weird online, but your mouth sounds very wet tonight.
Why on
I know.
earth would you say that?
I'm just saying, I hear it. It's just, it's very,
I'm the sound
Now she's
is-
going to be super like.
yeah, thanks for that, James.
Yeah, she's
the
not gonna talk
sound,
anymore.
the sound is super
Maybe that
weird
was
in
the
the
goal.
room tonight.
the feel in the room is so weird.
Because we
I
have the
think
door
it's 'cause
closed.
The door's closed. The
closed.
fan's not on.
The
Yeah.
fan's loud. That's one reason it's off. I had it on one night and it was just,
I like that.
yeah, but it's loud as fuck. And
It's
this
not. It only bothers you. Nobody else
Yeah.
cares.
I don't give a shit. I care about sound. It was funny. The next post on here, besides Nathan's weird skull thing, was something posted by Ryan Goslow about the facial reconstruction and the importance of soft tissues on things like T-Rex. And they talk about how like some of the depictions are of the teeth on the outside, the way you would look like crocodiles nowadays. And some of the depictions are of enough tissue that covers the teeth, so it's a fully closed mouth. So again, a lot of that is,
It's just conjecture.
yeah, like we weren't there. This was a fun one. Travis posted beetles hydrate by drinking through their buttholes.
Mhm. I did. I looked through that one.
So you got turtles that breathe through their buttholes and beetles that drink through their buttholes. So far, all we do is shit out of them. I haven't found anything amazing that we can do. Can't play. I mean, maybe play the flute with a butthole. I don't know. It's
I mean,
Oh my god.
Sure.
on American Pie 2, it was
that's
it was a
different.
trumpet.
That is true. I thought you were going with the flute from American Pie, but that
No,
was
but, yeah, I could have, but that's different. She
yeah.
played that a little differently.
Yeah. It's a little different. Nathan posted one for you, Katie. It was a cartoon of chameleons playing poker. And it says
I saw that one.
why chameleons aren't good
Super
poker
cute.
players. It was the chameleon looks like the cards.
I thought
Did
that
you
was
guys
funny.
see any of the photos Todd Becker posted last week of one of the Retic's chameleons? They put like a little sword in its hand.
Yes.
And then they
it
put like a
was
little beer bottle in its hand.
I
fabulous.
missed that one.
Yeah.
It was fabulous.
That was,
Oh,
unfortunately.
that's right. Darren Watson, he put frogs in your butthole. That's true. We talked about
Yeah. Waco was slow enough that we were able to do those fun things. It was mainly, Amanda. I don't think Lee was really, but we had a,
Lee
We
probably
had fun with
tolerated it all.
Nathan said there's people who drink coffee through their butthole.
yeah.
I'm
There's
not
also,
Googling that. I'm not.
there was also a trend when I was in college of people drinking alcohol through their butt and then people died.
Yeah,
from
it's not
it.
good. You go straight.
It goes straight into your metabolism. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or pour, like I
Don't break it
remember, it was in Houston. Some kids poured vodka. No, they poured Everclear into a hot
Funneling.
tub.
Okay, thank you.
Funneling. Yeah, butt funneling.
She's trying to figure out the logistics.
Yeah.
Suck things in a
You could.
straw
You just-
like
I mean,
that.
You gotta have some talent.
Yeah. Poured Everclear in a hot tub and got in, and it killed
Oh,
all
shit.
of them
Oh my god.
because that hot water and it just soaked right through their skin, and
Oh shit.
there's no control over how much goes into you.
Waiting your body doesn't break down. It's not like your digestive system breaking it down.
yeah, crazy.
Our friend Megan posted this weird thing. It was a survey for should Texans be allowed to own dangerous animals as pets. And I was going to take it, but then I took the survey and I started looking at the questions, and like a lot of them, the questions feel like there should be a yeah, but, and be able to explain the but. Like there was no yeah, but option. It was this or this or this, and they were lumping
Well, and
lions together with bearded dragons.
if you read the comments on there, a couple
big
of our
snakes.
people were like, "This is a very subjective
Yeah, it's
survey, and
that's a dangerous kind of survey because people go in there going,
Yeah.
you shouldn't be allowed to own a tiger. Yeah, but that's not what I was talking about. It's not just tigers.
She thinks about owning a dangerous animal, she thinks about owning a tiger, whereas other people consider like the rat snakes that she has to be the dangerous animal that you shouldn't own.
Or a boa
or
constrictor,
the lizards that are in the corner.
Saw some lady the other day in a Louisiana snake group commented, people should not be allowed to own those because they're destroying the habitat in Florida, and it was a ball python.
Oh my Lord.
And I'm like, it's not these.
No.
And yeah.
Thanks for trying.
Yeah. Good try. Go away.
There was what looks like a Wels catfish caught in the Netherlands. It was a bright yellow albino. That was cool looking. Those catfish get huge.
Someone locally killed a DeKay's brown snake the other day that looked like a palmetto corn snake.
Like a palmetto.
Really?
Yeah.
It was. I need to post it in the group. I posted in a comment, but it's
it was pretty.
Ooh, that's fun. But he got bit right here by a retic.
No, thank you.
Like, I guess he put his hand up when it struck at him and it got him around the palm.
Talk to the hand. Oh shit.
Stop.
He doesn't care. He's like, I'd rather that bite me than one of my cobras.
No joke.
Travis also posted a picture. It was a cartoon expressions of a frog, and it's like happy, sad, curious, tired, and they're all the same picture, and then it gets to flirty and it's all bloated up, making loud noises.
Hey, you guys have lived in Louisiana. Have you ever ordered tamales in Louisiana?
Tamales?
Do they look like this?
Those are canned tamales.
Yeah.
Those are like
That's not.
That's why they were
Hormel.
Yeah.
$8.
Oh damn.
Those are Hormel canned.
You know what?
tamales.
That's right. That I knew they tasted.
You know, I know because I eat them on. Because I mean, every now and then I don't care. I'll eat shitty stuff out of the pantry, but those are Hormel canned tamales.
That's what that's one of the meals they had at the venue.
Oh,
that's
now there was a place
bullshit.
in Forest Hill that people would go to.
Well, that's because it was straight up Mexican.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was not. They were not good.
Yeah,
it tastes like enchiladas.
Those wouldn't be. Those are.
Yeah. Now I realize what that flavor was.
Yeah, they're Hormel canned tamales.
Yeah. I'm looking.
I'm glad I scrolled up our giveaway this month. We have a giveaway this month.
Oh yeah, I remember this now. It was blowing up my Facebook feed.
Katie.
Oh god, it still kills me seeing that decay snake. Yeah.
I wouldn't have known this was the decay snake.
But I would have known it wasn't anything.
But I would have known that, like, hey,
I would have known that I need to whack it with a stick.
Yeah, I'll whack it with a stick.
That's
So our friends over at Colossal Constrictors, who have done some giveaways for us before, they did some giveaways for the tools from Redline.
Mm-hmm.
They did the giveaway for the temp guns every week in December. Yeah.
Yes.
And they did the pizza party, which was my favorite part of all that. But they're giving away a free Spider Robotics Herbstat 1 for us for this month. And nope, you can't win it.
Cannot. Okay.
I put some steps there to kind of help us. I would like, so I'm gonna get back on my soapbox for our podcast. I would like to grow our podcast, not because I'm like I want a bunch of followers, although it does bother me when I see some of these douchebags on their like 30th episode and they get like 1,000 people because with all the super chats and all the shit on YouTube and the bro this and bro that. That kind of
I don't know anything that you're talking about, but okay.
Don't worry, you're not missing anything. But they get so many followers because of the way they.
Gotcha.
It's not. They're not genuine followers.
Yeah.
They don't have the interaction that we have with their. They don't talk about frogs and buttholes like we do.
Exactly.
With their
drinking coffee in their buttholes.
Right.
But I would like for our podcast to gain more listeners, more for our guests. We've had some really great guests. It's our 161st episode, and we've had some really great guests that I just wish more people got to hear those interviews because some of those interviews are really, really good. And I'm not gonna lie, some of our interviews are not so great.
I mean, that's just the nature of the beast.
But some are really, really good. So to enter for this giveaway for the free Herbstat thermostat, just 3 things you gotta do. Find the post. I made the post in our discussion page and on our normal page. Tell us your favorite episode we've done. 161 episodes now after this one. What is your favorite one? Then
some of those have really surprised me.
Yeah. Then share a link to that episode on your Facebook. Just so it gets more eyes on it, people listen to it, and maybe.
Well, not only is it more eyes on us, but it's more eyes on whoever the person was that was the guest for that episode.
And then go give Colossal Constrictors a like on Facebook or Instagram. They have some amazing animals, and they're great people. And like I said, this is the 3rd giveaway they've done for our podcast. Really, if you count all 4 in December plus the 2, this is the.
This is the 3rd that they've done since we've been. Because all of their giveaways have been while we've been,
and then they reached out to me and they're like, "Hey, do we want to do this?" And I was like, "That's awesome! I love that we can give away something like this." The last Herbstat we gave away was JT. Our buddy JT gave that one away.
Yep.
I love being able to give away the thermostat because one, it's something I use. I use that thermostat, and so I like to see other people get to use it because it's great quality. But yeah, like so some of the episodes, I'll go through some of the ones that people have said. Lee Reddy, like the VivTech one where we had Ryan on. We've had Ryan on a couple times. Pick one though, but his are always great interviews. Charles Lattimore said the one with Brent, our buddy Brent, who is one of the greatest people we know. Even you said that. Lonnie said her favorite was episode 11 with Dave Kaufman. I got to reach back out to Dave. Episode 11 was way before you guys.
I remember listening to it.
It is so different. The podcast is so different now than it was then. I would like to get Dave back on. Episode 86 with Dr. Green. Dr. Green's a great interview.
So every time anybody would tag us in what they would post, I was getting alerts on my phone this weekend, and there were several that said that they really enjoyed having Dr. Green on.
Yeah. Episode 117, Tyson said Dr. Loafman. Love having Dr. Loafman on. Yeah. He's a great one.
I love how you conveniently skipped over one.
Which one did I skip over?
You skipped over Chris.
Go ahead. That's the last one on my page. It is on my page.
Yeah, mine too.
Our buddy
episode
Paul,
120 with Chris Eaton.
That's fine. It's still the last one on my page.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Anyways, episode 120 with Chris Eaton from Paul Weifeld said, love the guy. We are the same personality.
They really are.
Sharing the link on his Deep Down Morphs Facebook page. And thanks, Paul.
We've had Chris on more than once, but that would, I guess, been about the last time we had him as the full on.
And then
40 weeks ago.
And then I had a couple on the Instagram one, which I'll pull when we finally do the drawing. But so yeah, go tell us your favorite episode. Share that episode on your Facebook, and go give Colossal Constrictors a like on Instagram and or Facebook. It's free to do that. Go do it. Oh look, it's the fat man himself.
He said, "Who's your daddy?" His name's Larry. He lives in Beaumont. I look just like him.
Oh my gosh.
So mine's been on the podcast a couple times.
Yeah.
So, our guest is here.
Hey, bring him in.
Go ahead.
Go ahead and bring our guest in real quick. Let's bring him in.
Hello,
Lucas. I'm not going to butcher your last name, so I'm just going to say Lucas.
That's fine. That's fine.
I put it in my head for the last 2 weeks. I'm not sure if it's right.
Oh, I guarantee you.
Go for it. Go for it.
Bagnara.
But I mean,
it's wrong.
You were close.
Wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. That's what it was.
Exactly.
That's okay. I made myself I've embarrassed myself this weekend talking to the guys who do all the little micro geckos and stuff. You had them on your show when y'all first started the other podcast that you don't do anymore.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
It was a good podcast. I do miss it.
It was.
I was telling them how the drive sucked.
I'm the one from New Orleans.
Yeah, they live in Baton Rouge.
That's right.
And I was telling them how the drive sucked to Baton Rouge because the bridge was shut down and we had to exit.
And I said, gotta be a nightmare.
It's horrible. And I said, gross TT, and he started laughing.
Yeah.
He said, it's gross tet. I was like, no, it's not.
I said, nod my head. I've said TT so many times driving past that sign. So many
I have to look at Atchafalaya spelled before I can pronounce it.
Yeah.
Atchafalaya.
Because I have to like think about the letters that you put together to make
Natchitoches is a tricky one.
Yeah. Gotta love Louisiana.
Anyways, Lucas.
It's a great state.
Yeah.
Like I said, do you say Lab Exotics or LAB Exotics? I know it's the initials.
Yeah, Lab Exotics.
Lab Exotics. And then he's also the other half of the Retic Lounge, which we had your co-host on.
Yeah, Nathan was on like 2 weeks ago. So
for Dax, we're gonna have more Retic talk, so he can trying to hide that hard on there, Dax. And
Dax a good dude.
Don't say that. That's 3 weeks now that people say he's good. And,
I could. Okay, there we go. I can see all the comments now. I figured this out. What's going on, everyone?
Ignore any of the ones from Dax. Right. He's gonna get a big head. So,
but Lucas is another Yankees fan.
Huge Yankees fan.
Why are we
I'm happy. You know that.
Well, it's because he said it earlier.
Oh, okay. I was like, damn, these people know me.
Yeah, I'll see you later.
No, I know nothing. Let's just go ahead and get that out.
Because as much as you guys are a Yankees fan, I'm an Astros fan.
That's so funny.
Man. Yeah, sorry.
It's rough being a Yankees fan and living here in Texas.
I bet.
Hasn't been fun the last few years.
I know how much shit I give Dax every time I see him.
Yeah.
He did wish me happy birthday, go Yankees a couple weeks ago.
That's
that's great.
hilarious.
Yeah.
That's great.
That was the first one I read that morning. I woke up to.
I'm a Braves fan, so I'm good.
Yeah, they did beat the Astros.
It's great living here.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure my grandpa would like come back and haunt me if I wasn't a Braves fan.
Yeah.
Like
Well, 'cause-
that's like
so-
the fondest memory I have of him is him sitting in his recliner, yelling at the TV, and then my tiny little grandmother being like, "Ed, you need to tone it down."
Well, because for
son."
us growing up, if you grew up in like Mississippi or Alabama, we don't
Right.
have professional sports.
that was
Right.
it. Yeah.
And so your
Right.
professional baseball team is most likely going to be the Braves. And back then you grew up watching it was on TBS every night.
Yep.
So
Right.
you saw the Braves so much, which is also weird growing up. I watched a lot of Bulls basketball because of WGN.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So Bulls and like White Sox.
So I guess
there you
growing
go.
up,
What's cool is when I grew up in Sarasota, Florida, and the White Sox used to play spring training there. Now the Orioles do at Ed Smith Stadium. And so I got a picture of me when I was like 3-4 years old, giving a fist bump to Michael Jordan at spring training.
Nice.
That's funny. I got to see Michael Jordan hit a home run when he played for the Birmingham Barons.
Oh, nice.
One of his like 3 home runs. I was there for one of them.
Right. Yeah, I see Chris Eaton over here saying, "Who's your daddy?" Daddy referencing Pedro Martinez, but we know that didn't work out too much for the Red Sox.
Oh,
Appreciate your guys' patience, by the way. I know I had to
No.
switch
Oh,
dates,
no.
and you guys
Not a
held down the
problem.
fort. So
This actually worked out better with a lot of our schedules for the week.
Yeah,
so-
cool, perfect. Well, that
because
worked
at one
out.
point there was a chance that Robert was going to be leaving town tomorrow, and then Katie was going to be busy tomorrow. So
Yeah, it ended up working out well. And luckily, our listeners are all super flexible with whenever we finally actually do this and however long it takes James to get it out for everybody to
it
listen.
gets out usually by the end of the week.
Yeah.
There's only been a couple times.
There's
it's
a couple
led
times
into the
on
weekend.
like Saturday night. He's like, "Oh shit, I didn't put the podcast out," and then he goes running up the stairs.
Well, the
to get
worst
it to
of
Listen,
when, like-
I know that struggle. That's a new struggle
It's-
for me and Nathan, and it's a struggle, especially when you're putting content out weekly, or it's.
I don't know how any of this works at
it's
all.
a lot. It's
So
a
if
lot.
Robert, could you put the podcast out for people if you had to
No.
do it? Yeah, no.
I can figure it out.
I don't know
you-
that
you-
I would.
You're trying to voluntold Robert. You're like, "Hey, Robert,
Yeah.
you're gonna."
I'm like, I don't know that I could do it. So James, nothing can happen to you, man. Or this
That's
podcast
that's
is
the
gone.
plan. That is the plan.
Speaking of, how's it? Are you still going to the gym?
We went to the gym yesterday. I'm
Awesome.
sore.
I did a 15-minute Pilates wall workout and it kicked my butt.
I could do a wall workout where you lean up
It's
against the wall.
not
15
nearly as simple
Yeah.
as you think it is. I thought it was going
mine
to
would
be
be.
so easy.
I do wall workouts, and that's just where I rest my shoulder and
Yeah.
my head, and
Yeah.
I go to sleep.
Yeah.
I could do that.
That's what I wanted to do. And I was like dripping sweat. I sweated more doing that 15 minutes of Pilates than I did on any of the gym.
So we've taken a big break between because we were going like 4 or 5 times a week, and then we took a big break and we went back, and I was able to do like 3 miles on the elliptical, usually pretty well within like 35 minutes. Whew, I killed myself trying to. It's amazing how fast you drop off on what you can
Right.
do.
Yeah.
When you
Especially
don't
with
know.
cardio,
Yeah.
But for me, day 2 after a workout, when I get back into it, it's always the worst. So maybe tomorrow
Mhm.
you'll wake up feeling even worse.
yeah.
I pushed too much on
I told
arm
him
stuff
not to.
yesterday,
I told
and
him
I was
not to.
fine. But at school today, I stretched my arms for a minute, and all of a sudden my pecs just like burned. I was like, oh, that's right. I worked out
I
yesterday.
think you pulled something, right?
Yeah, it was rough.
Well,
Right.
we were doing really great, and then you had that like cough, chest, like it wasn't
Yeah, let's
bronchitis.
Let's go ahead and
but-
blame me for why you quit going to the gym.
Oh no, I'm just lazy and I filter off. Although it was beautiful last night, and there were not a lot of people there.
So you're getting farther away from New Year's
Yeah,
resolution.
that's what you gotta do.
I blame my snakes for not going to the gym.
Yeah, fucking snakes.
Fuck damn snakes. But
God
yeah. So as far as the topic of podcast goes and being able to move things across, just to give you a warning, we recorded last night. I'm coughing like crazy. Allergies here are insane. So if you hear me just
Oh, yeah.
blasting the mic, I'm going to do my best to mute myself.
damn.
Where are you at?
San Antonio, Texas.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I bet all the pollen levels
Pollen
are through
is
the roof right now.
miserable, right? I was just in Tennessee on vacation, went to Nashville for 6 days, noticed not a single thing over there. The night that I got back and woke up the next morning, I woke up just not able to talk. My face was swollen. I was like, all right, it's definitely allergies.
Mm.
Yeah,
I
fun times.
Luckily, my allergies, like growing up, they were horrible. But knock on wood, they've gotten better now. They're iffy.
You've also been taking lots of vitamins that you normally don't.
I also
take.
have moved farther away in the last 15 years from where my allergies were horrible growing up.
This is true.
So it's completely different trees and everything
Right.
between South Alabama and Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anyways, so Lab Exotics, we talked about your podcast. So what do you keep?
So retics. I'm actually growing up, I kept a bunch of different species. I kept the coastal carpet, I kept Burmese, I kept Argentine boas. A lot of that stuff was import stuff, and I was just a kid. I lived in Miami at the time. I don't know if any of you listening are familiar with Snakes on Sunset. They still are in business, and they were a big importer of a lot of animals. And so, my parents would take me there to hang out, and I had already had my first snake and ball python, but I was over there and convinced my mom at like 8 to get a Burmese python and Argentine boa, and they were more than likely imports because a lot of them didn't last a long time. And but right now, just keeping retics. I got back into the snake keeping game. I went off and played college baseball. Couldn't keep snakes in my dorm and traveling a bunch, and so I got back into snakes when I got out of college.
Where'd you play baseball
at? University of the Cumberlands in Kentucky. It's a small D1 NAIA school that good times. I did JUCO in Florida, South Florida State College, and then got a 4-year, I finished off the 4 years up in Kentucky playing ball. Cool. So right now just retics, but I will be acquiring some I don't even think I made this public, or like maybe 3 people know, but I'm going to be acquiring a pair of F1 peacock monitors.
Now 5 people know.
Right.
15.
And no one in the comments. And then I am this year going to be finally fulfilling like a dream that I've had since I was like a teenager, of finally just stepping in and getting into the locality green tree python game. Those have been my favorite snakes forever. And love my retics to death, but it'd be cool to have a little change of pace and have something new. And yeah,
you'll be like one of those snobs that we talked about with Bill Stiegel last week.
Man, Bill is such a good. I mean, he hosts a party every Arlington NARBC, and I've been able to go over there to his place twice, and that was the first time where I saw that size of a collection of green tree pythons and got to hold them. And I was just like, the obsession I've had of reading the complete chondro and researching them and all that good stuff, like I had been obsessed with them without actually really getting the chance to fully interact with them, and then going there just solidified everything. I was like, yep, love that. So
that drastic difference from seeing cheap green trees at a show, to going to Bill's collection, seeing what it's like when someone actually spends time with them.
Right. I've never liked the idea of green trees being at the show, and typically the only ones that are imports. So
yeah.
I think anybody who works with captive bred and who puts all that hard-earned money and time, and they're difficult to get eating. I don't think a lot of people that breed captive bred want to take them to shows.
Yeah, you don't tend to see them. That's what we're talking about. Bill. I mean, Bill's stuff's all sold before a show ever comes around. There's no reason for him to bring green trees to a show,
right?
Because if you're captive breeding them, that group, it's a fairly small, reptile wise, a small group of people, and they all know who's breeding them, and they're spoken for by the time they come around.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not even in that community. I don't even have one, but I talked to Patrick, I talked to Bill, and they all were like, hey, Bill has some high yellow stuff coming in that's not going to cost an arm and a leg. And I actually got, Patrick was like, hey, there's a dude actually in San Antonio, mongrel reptiles that breeds, and he just had a clutch of sarongs, and so that's who I'm going to be getting an animal from.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, so looking forward to that.
So retics. So let's go over the question we asked about retics, and then we can get into them. So I can shit on Dax some more in a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
The question we asked, it was a very basic question, just to kind of get a feel. What are your feeling about reticulated pythons as pets? So I'm gonna go through several, and it was really all over the place on these answers.
Yeah.
But our buddy Ashley Howdy, who was in the chat, says, I have excellent feelings about super dwarf retics as pets. Smaller, curious, interactive. She says it's like monitors without legs.
Right.
They are definitely a more active one. Our friend Becca over at the Learning Zoo said if you have the space, which is something we'll get into later. But yeah, if you have the space, they're great. Our friend Danielle said, I just got my first. He's been fabulous so far, but he's definitely got a lot more going on upstairs than a lot of my other snakes, which again, you hear that from a lot of people with retics. And I've always done that too. You can just look in the eyes of a retic and know that they're thinking.
Oh, yeah.
But she said, so far, I think they can be really great pets. But I think given the people I got, she goes, given that the people I got my boy from didn't even know that it was a morph, perhaps there needs to be more discernment on the part of the people selling them about who is they're selling to, and making sure that people actually know what they're buying.
Right.
Yeah. To not know that the retic you have is not a normal retic is, you should probably know that.
Yeah. My favorite part is when you have like people who've been breeding for 20 years saying that they sell like, hey, here's a pure Calato, and they send off like a motley. And it's like, oh,
How do
yeah,
you
so-
not know what you haven't? Like, is
What do you mean,
that
how do you not know?
really
You've met
common?
people in the hobby. It's not just common with retics. That's common across the. Well, the problem is our hobby.
But these are people that are breeding them.
But again,
Somebody posted earlier, look at my rosy cheek boa, and the boa's only, and everybody was like, "Yeah, that's just a hypo.
yeah,
It's not a what's a rosy cheek."
Oh
yeah,
my
it's-
Right.
gosh.
I mean-
Hey, I will say there's a lot of like het markers and things in boas that make them really confusing.
Yeah,
there are.
Boas are confusing. I love them, but they are confusing.
But breeders the problem is using the word breeder, I guess. I don't know if you're really a breeder just because you put two snakes together and they had babies.
Right.
I don't know. It depends on your definition of breed. Yes, your snake's bred, but you are not a breeder. You don't have a history of it. You don't have the knowledge that goes behind it a lot of times, because a lot of times those are two Craigslist animals they threw into a tank, and oh, there's babies. So
Right. I guess my definition of a breeder is someone who, yes, puts two snakes together, produce babies. They also are the retail side of it. They're the customer service side of it, and they're also the mentor side of it. They also need to
Yeah.
provide that feedback and that growth for that person that has the animal. That, I guess, to me is a breeder, like the holistic part of it. Now, yeah, people breed and then they wholesale off to bigger people, but if they're doing it in a large capacity, definitely those are individuals I would consider breeders. But yeah, I mean, for you to do this for 1 year and put them together, yes, you have bred snakes. I don't know if you're necessarily a breeder just yet. If that's what you're aspiring to be, then keep going at it.
only see those kind of people at shows. Someone you've never seen vending a show, and they're vending a show for the first time, and they don't really have a tablecloth, and it's just some animals and some random plastic shoe boxes that they.
Yeah.
I mean,
The
we've
good
seen
thing,
those people.
the good thing is those days are close to being done, because a lot of people are starting to step it up on their displays. A lot of people are
yeah.
stepping it up on the way that they're doing things. And so the old way of just shoving snakes in deli cups and with tape on top and having, I will say, like, one thing that I'm very excited about in the industry in general is we seem to be getting to this next generation of like really keeping a lot better and doing what's in the best interest of the snake. And we can thank Facebook keyboard warriors for that. But at the end of the day, it's true. A lot of people are starting to keep these things a lot better.
Well, one good thing is that the fact that people are starting to up their game at shows is going to weed out some of the, because that's when you get like those people that complain that they didn't make any money this weekend with their 5 pastels or whatever. Because again, you're not a breeder. You just bought 2 snakes and threw them together.
Right.
And thanks to the fact that a lot of these snakes we have domesticated without actually domesticating them, and you can breed them in anything. You're not a breeder, but you're right, they'll work their way out.
And especially with retics, like a lot of people think that like if your retics are breeding for you and you produce babies, that you're keeping them in ideal standards because they're willing to breed for you. You can neglect a retic till almost death and they'll still give you a clutch. Like that's a fact about retics. You can be the worst person in the world with your husbandry, and
Yeah, Jay
retics will
Brewer. Wait,
still,
no,
yeah.
my bad. I didn't say that out loud.
retics will still bless you more than you deserve.
Jay Brewer. So our friends Eric Yaw over at Colossal Constrictor said they have 5. They definitely do not think everyone should have mainlands, which for those that
Okay.
Are those
listen
larger?
those are the larger ones.
Okay.
But their super dwarf is easily manageable, and we'll get into that. We did a little bit with Nathan, but we'll get into it again.
I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah. So our buddy Ryan Cox, which I haven't talked to Ryan in forever. I haven't talked to Ryan in forever. Said
That name rings a bell.
you'll like this one. Honestly, shit pets is how he starts it off with. He says, I'm gonna be
You
super.
know what's funny though? Before you continue reading this, like as soon as I pulled it up to read his comment, I 100% could hear it in his voice. I could hear him laughing about it as he said it. Like it was just fabulous.
So he says, I'm going to be super unpopular here, but even the dwarfs are okay pets at best. Like Borden, because Scott Borden said some stuff later on, said they are intelligent apex predators. A dwarf retic is like a dwarf Clydesdale. It's still the size of a southern coastal carpet python. And we've been taught to keep them wrong for years. It's a reason I've moved away from them. And it breaks my heart because it's my favorite snake, period. I hope we can move the needle and make them showpiece critters in 10+ foot cages. But there's too many of them kept in 6x2x2s,
Right.
having 10+ foot animals. If people want cool morphs and impressive animals, they should look into boa constrictors or boa imperator, which I agree. If you
Yes and no, though. I mean, I agree, because like boas are smaller. They're very thick and heavily dense. And what a lot of people don't realize is when you go out to the Amazon or you go out into Central America and you look at these boas, they're up in trees, big
Oh,
ones.
yeah.
And the fact that I see a lot of people breeding boas in 70-quart tubs with 2 boas in there, I'm like, so I really think that there's a double. There's a double standard, right? Because we look at retics and we think of retics as the biggest snakes, longest snakes in the world. And so we're held at a higher standard of making sure that we need to provide more for them, which I think is a great thing. But we neglect to look at the boa community and see that people are keeping boas and recs that are literally, in my opinion, and this is kind of an ignorant statement because I don't keep boas right now, but I think boas are a lot more arboreal than retics are. And so I feel like there's this, like, the retic community is like being zoomed in on, which we should be, because we keep crazy animals. But I also feel like the boa community needs to step up their game too.
I think younger boas definitely are more arboreal. I don't know. I'd have to go to the Amazon. I have seen pictures of larger ones in trees, but I don't know how much they're climbing the way retics climb, right? Because retics, that muscular body is very. They're not meant to be fat, which of course we can talk about later.
They're super lean.
They're very lean, strong, and if you ever watch a big one, there's climb a tree. It's a completely different method than watching like a boa try to climb a tree. I think boas are climbing trees that are at an angle or easy branches to get up and pull themselves up. They're not doing that whole weird ass thing that retics do, where they can
do the wrap around.
Wrap around and up and that.
Right.
But yeah, I think the smaller ones definitely are. I don't.
I'm sorry. I was looking at the comments and it says Lucas in all caps, but it just says Facebook user.
We get that all the time.
Hi, Facebook user.
But yeah, I don't like keeping boas until the only boas I keep in tubs, and even so, we can preface, I guess, the problem with a lot of tubs is height, right? You can get a tub that could probably give you the same floor space as a decent sized cage, but there's no height.
Right.
So if they want to stretch up or do some of the move, because if you every now and then I'll look in at my boas and they're just sitting there with their head like a foot off the ground, just staring up, just because.
Well, like my doomerals, they're ground boas. They'll get up on top of the big hide. They'll be used like up in the top corner with their head in their enclosure.
So I think this goes back to like this whole discussion and debate, like across the species, is that as breeders and as keepers, the previous model was like, let's keep to a minimum standard of how they can thrive and survive, and not so much of the like what's actually in the best interest of these animals. Because yes, a boa does get heavier body. You might not see these large boas in trees. You definitely will see retics up there, but does that mean that it's okay, for the lifelong? And I'm not ditching racks. I use racks. I'm getting out of the smaller racks and trying to provide cages and everything. I mean, we can go about this topic forever, but I guess my point going back to it was the retic is very zoomed in because we do keep very large species that are active. Yeah. But I also feel like there's a lot of other species that are kept that are still being kept to that minimum standard. Right.
I agree. Well, I think we've talked about this before when it comes with racks with like ball pythons. I think tub size is an issue. I get a 70 series tub for your ball python. Just like, don't stop putting it in a sweater box. I don't care. Like, you'll look at it in there. The sweater box should be the hide, and yet it is now the enclosure.
Right.
At least a 70 gives them. Look, if we want to agree that they don't climb, which I kind of agree that in the majority they don't climb, and they're a ground dwelling snake for ball pythons, but they are on the ground. They do move.
Right. And if you think about the ground still has elevation.
Yeah.
You have rocks, you have hills, you have like caves, right? Like, so even the ground it's 3-dimensional. Like when we think of a ground dwelling snake, even at like a ground boa, a ground isn't just like flat, right?
That was Nathan earlier, by the way, that said Lucas, and he said he stopped watching Legion of Skanks for this. So he said, Lucas knows how a big deal that is.
Man, that's love right there. Love you, Nathan.
And then Dax said Sambo's. Dax, I was talking about actual boa constrictors earlier, but leave my Sambos alone. Fuck you. They'll stay in racks because they're dumbasses.
They got the most stupid eyes ever, but I love them.
If I can ever get myself an Arabian
I was
Sambo,
going to say the Arabian ones are
they're
the
big
ones
old
that are
googly eyes on
Oh,
top of their
our-
head.
man.
On our Patreon, it was like a running theme for like 2 weeks that people were just posting random pictures of just like sand boas with their eyes like all like wonky. I love
That's
it.
one of the
They're
easiest
great.
ways to sell them is people look at the face and they're like, oh, how cute. And I'm like, yep, adorable face. You need one.
It works.
Let's go through real quick. Wicked Reptiles, all he said was big fan. But fuck him, he put out a video earlier about some of the animals he has, and he showed off his Fiji banded iguana. So fuck it.
Yeah.
Fuck
We cannot have here.
You're
For
cool.
anybody that doesn't know,
Also,
in
when
America,
are you
we
moving?
can't have them.
Also, when are you moving to Texas?
Yeah,
right. He's been talking
Adam
about
Corn.
it.
Adam. Get it
Come
going.
hang out with us. I mean, you won't be able to bring your really
Right.
awesome lizard, so there is that,
Yeah.
which may be enough to keep you in Canada. I don't know. It's a Fiji banded. I think I just want one so bad because I can't have one, but it does look really fucking awesome.
Right.
Anyways, Lonnie said, I think they make great pets for people who are willing to give them the space, which we talked about. Joe Smith said, great animals, however, mainland and even dwarfs need better management by breeders as far as who gets them. Most people, especially like the one where Danielle got one for someone who had no idea what they had.
Right.
Most people don't have the ability
I agree
or
with that.
most people don't have the ability or inclination to provide proper care for a 14 plus foot active intelligent snake. You could have left it at 14 plus foot. Like I can throw Burmese in there. Fucking rock pythons. No one, like very few people can handle that.
I've never even
Right.
seen an African rock python.
Oh, really?
Like at a show or anything?
Rock pythons are great, and rock pythons have that reputation that Retics had back in like the 90s and early 2000s. But as
Yeah,
we
'cause they were
continue
all
to
imports.
captively breed them, they're actually getting better, and they're nippy babies, but can be great animals. But yeah, totally agree with that. Like with what you're saying, like you have Burmese pythons, rock pythons, and retics. Yeah, retics are more lean and they move back and forth in cages and they're prone to pushing, but that doesn't mean we need to stuff a 13-foot, 100-pound Burmese python in a small cage because they don't move as much.
And I'll throw anacondas in there. Although thanks to legislation, those have become way more expensive now. So less people are getting greens than they used to because you don't get the imports. But I'll see yellows out there for fairly cheap, and I'm like, that's still a big snake. And most yellows you see are not the cuddliest of snakes.
No, they're not.
They're not.
A green anaconda is one of my like bucket list dream pets, but
I can't house it properly.
we're going to So my wife and I, in a few years, we're going to be looking for property and getting a house on property, and I'm going to be building a 2,000 square foot area. Nothing like crazy, but I plan to do a huge enclosure with a water feature that's set up with a tank that I can drain the water, refill the water. Like that's how I want to keep a green anaconda. I don't want to keep it in a, they grow slowly. So a lot of people get away and think it's okay to put them in a rack because they're small. But no, I don't
even like the big cage, the big cement mixing tub as a water dish. Like
I will say that Brian Barczyk's anaconda
that setup is good.
It's great. I like the way
that's a beautiful setup. Barczyk has come his keeping methods, and when he opened up the zoo, like those display animals are just like everything that he has there. I mean, just phenomenal husbandry on the different animals that he has that are out at the zoo.
But so the Reddies asked, so in the wild, are retics and boas being seen in the wild in trees in the daytime? The reason they ask is they wonder if anyone has done a study on UVB and UVA for these snake species.
Go ahead and give that response.
I mean, I know that a lot of these snakes do lay the same way, like we've talked about with like the chameleons. They will get into those parts where sun comes through. They don't tend to go lay like out in the sun, but
is that more because it's warmer in that spot or because they want the UV?
I think it's both.
So
you'll see like lizards and stuff will do that. They will go look for the light. They need the light to know, like,
right. So I mean, I don't know if there's any like huge formal studies out there. One thing that I will say, and I excuse my ignorance. Have you guys had Ryan with VivTech on?
Yes.
Or Ryan and Erica? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So you've gotten the spiel with UVA and UVB, but so right now I am actually doing N = 1, an independent study with a single animal that I'm running with a Halmahera female reticulated python, and I'm using their Vivtech UVA UVB spectrum bulb. I am on the second out of a total of 4 phases in this experiment. And so my background's in psychology. I've done some research stuff before. And so I'm going to make this as legitimate as a study as I can. But obviously, there's going to be a lot of extraneous variables that are going to, it's not going to be a scientifically sound, perfect study because I am someone with a full-time job, a toddler, a wife. And so
yeah, those wives take up so much time.
God, they do.
So with that being said, I throughout our podcast, the Retic Lounge, I'm doing some updates there, but I will say, I have seen some pretty noticeable differences, and so we're measuring, we're measuring defensiveness, inquisitiveness, and food response, because those are 3 of the biggest retic traits.
Yeah.
When you think of retics, and food response has increased so far. Defensiveness has drastically decreased so far. And this was going from a tub, a small, what we think a small, secure enclosure.
Yeah.
Right. And I put it in a 30-inch, I put her in a 30-inch by 24 by 24. Right now, I'm still on the basic setup of paper, bunch of hides with the UV light on. And defensiveness in a bigger enclosure has decreased, and inquisitiveness so far has remained pretty stagnant. Hasn't really fluctuated so much, but so I am doing that. So it's not a legit, it's probably not going to be published in a journal, but it's going to be a pretty decently sound experiment that I think will be valuable for retic keepers and the industry in general.
It's pretty interesting, though.
And for anybody that there wants to save some money on their Vivtech LED UV bulbs, use code Gumbo22 to save 15%. I just got to plug that. That's the
Yeah.
deal I got with Ryan and Eric. I got to make sure I plug that as much as I can.
Right. Absolutely.
But no, I love those bulbs, and I definitely have noticed a difference with my lizards on those bulbs, and my tortoises. But I think, and that's UVB is tricky with snakes because we're always like they don't need it. And do they need it to survive? No. Do they need it to be healthy? We've proven no, because they've been healthy. But it definitely, I mean, there is UV in the wild, and they definitely lay in the sun. I think a lot of it comes with restrictions on what we can do with what we have right now, although technology is getting much better. Like I said, I think we talked last week about UVB. I really would like them to come out with a slimmer, like puck light style that I can put up against the top of my cage so that my fucking boas won't just yank it down, because they're great at yanking stuff off the top of a cage.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I've even talked to them about strip lights and they have a lot of ideas, a lot of people that are explaining things, but it's all still in the developmental stage. You just got to think about, even for like racks and things, like doing a strip of UVA, UVB lighting in a rack that doesn't have a lot of distance. Like, we don't know what the research is. Like, that could probably not be good.
Yeah, that'd be really, really low.
Right.
To even be safe, because you're talking 3 inches, 3.5 inches in a lot of those racks.
Right.
So Lee and Amanda, I think that's Lee actually commenting there. He and I talked about this at Waco because he was right next to me, and he really wants to get some Vivtech bolts to try out with a couple of their chameleons. Kind of the same idea that Lucas is having. Just try one and look for these specific things to see if it improves on their chameleons.
Yeah, and I have a control group, which is a control individual. I have a sibling, a male of that female, that I'm keeping in the same rack that she was in. His defensiveness was not as bad as hers. So again, there are flaws in the study because we are working with living animals that are never replicated, never the same. So there's going to be differences, but we're using him and keeping him in the rack to keep him as a control, and this different setup. I'm looking at a comment by Reddy's Rainforest asking if I'm going to be doing breeding as well with the UV and UVB. Like, absolutely. So every cage that I am having produced by me, whether it be by Focus Cube, who's one of our sponsors, or if I'm getting a really big enclosure and I have Jungle Cages do it, I am now moving forward. What's going on, Lee? I'm now moving forward to having all of my cages pre-installed with a mounting fixture to put a light bulb in there. I suck at like I'm great with cars, good with mechanical work. When you put a drill in my hand and I have to make holes in an enclosure, I always fuck them up, like really bad. And so I'm scared that these jungle cages and this focus cube cage, I'm scared to put holes in them because I'm spending $1,000+ on these large ass enclosures, and I don't want to ruin them. So I've been a little iffy about installing them on the current enclosures that I have, but just an idea for anyone who has that same fear that I do. Like you can create a PVC jungle gym and just have a VivTech bulb screwed onto a lamp and just hover it over that jungle gym and let your snakes crawl around there. And I had a buddy message me pictures, and he's doing that right now. And the snakes will always bask directly under that UVA UVB bulb, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and it's an interesting thing. And for anybody that wants to try to do some stuff on their own, some interesting setups to really test it is get 2 UVB bulbs and put one with the heat and one on the cool side. Set up the same perches on either side and see how they perch. Are they perching under the UVB for the heat also, or are they just going to the UVB by itself? What are they doing?
Let me also just emphasize that I keep my reticulated pythons in ambient temperatures.
Ugh,
I don't
you're one
have
of those people.
I don't have a, I mean, I'm one of those people, but I've kind of changed it. So
I'm too fat to be one of those people.
what, bro?
What do you call ambient?
Ambient is like, so I don't have any hot spots for my retics because
But how warm is your house?
No, so I have a garage that I have temperature controlled. And so I have it basically at, I mean, I did a lot of research in different islands of Indonesia because I keep a bunch of different localities. And what I've set my range at is 81 as 81 as a low and 84 as a high. If it gets to 85, not concerned. If it gets to 80, not concerned. And then even if it dips down to 79, like retics out in Indonesia at night during the cooler season, the dry weather gets down into the 60s.
The heat stroke I would suffer at 85 would concern me.
So me too. I thought that. I don't do well with heat. Like I get pissed. Like I'm not an angry person. I'm not an angry person. But if you want to
see, can make you an angry person though.
Yeah, like during the summer, my wife knows when I get into the vehicle and I'm behind that driving, like she knows to not ask me a question. She knows to not like say anything that'll agitate me because when it's summer here in Texas, I'm a different person.
Oh yeah.
So, but what's cool about my garage setup is that I have a humidifier in there, and so the humidity and a dehumidifier. But with the humidity being higher, I have fans going and circulating. It's really not all. I thought I was going to like do this for a year and say, F it, it's too hot. It actually hasn't been bad at all. But to my point was I don't have hot spots for my animals.
Yeah.
And so my female that I'm doing this experiment will still go under the light, which I think is pretty cool. So
I do want to throw out Harsh Reptile said they were going to be getting a whole bunch of VivTech bulbs. Again, code Gumbo22. I'm just saying, save yourself 15%. I'll plug stuff all day long.
Yeah, and if you get an air with that code, you could do Retic Lounge 23.
Forget theirs.
And that's
Gumbo22. We're going to be using VivTech bulbs on our chameleon. So Lee,
awesome.
we'll let you know how that goes because once we get our chameleon, we'll have VivTech bulbs on them. But so let me go through a couple of these before. Most of this stuff I won't read all. Most of the Retic answers were about the same. A lot of people
caging, right?
They think they're good pets, but not that everybody's made for them. This person said make great pets for a single snake household for the proper setup. Probably for the general person, it depends. It all depends. But they said they just wish there weren't as many tough guys who just want the biggest snake that they can get their hands on to show off to their buddies. And look, Dax talked just in time. Hey, Dax. Not that I'm saying this is about you. Tough guys wanting big snake.
Definitely not that person.
Oh my Lord. I'm just gonna smack him for you.
I haven't seen Dax in a while, so I'm just trying to get
I know.
But most people are saying they're very inquisitive. Scott Borden said absolutely awful for about 98% of the people who are keeping them. They're overproduced by a long shot, too often treated like berms, and instead of very large semi-arboreal top predators, which are kind of some of the things we hit on earlier. Todd Mills said, I'd say this is crowd biased, even though I've got answers all over the place. But to get an answer from the general population, you should boost this post. Todd, those tend to cost money. So,
right.
Again, we had a whole conversation at the beginning of this podcast about how we don't make any
This
money off
podcast
this.
is already pulling enough money out of my bank account.
So we're gonna
No,
go with
see, that's the damn truth.
and then Rick Nichols said 99.9% of people shouldn't own them. 99% of the breeders producing them shouldn't be. Giant snakes have a limit number of possible keepers who have the space and ability to house 18-foot, 150-pound snakes. Yeah, I agree. But honestly, because of bad keeping, how many 18-foot, 150-pound snakes are there really?
There's not a lot. You just let me know when to rip, and we'll start covering some of these.
Go ahead. So you go ahead. You
Wait. I need to know what soapbox we're on before we get on a soapbox. Because
No,
I feel like there's like 7 that y'all have covered
I feel like
tonight.
I feel like so. Why don't we do this? Do you want to summarize a few of these bullet points, and I can talk about them?
Okay.
We can talk about them. I don't want to. I hate going on my soapboxes
Okay.
because I do it enough on my podcast, and I look at Nathan looking at me, and he's like, "Shut the fuck up."
So is this like when you talk about how boas shouldn't look like a 2-liter bottle, but it should look like a loaf of bread?
well, fat is always an issue. Overfed, but that's in a lot of snakes across the whole hobby, and we can pretty much agree on
Right.
where that.
I'm always paranoid that my animals are overweight.
I mean, when you ball python breeders are getting your females to breed at 2.5 years old, something's wrong.
Well, and retics should not have fat rolls. They shouldn't.
they
They
shouldn't.
should never go flat.
I'm pretty
Like,
sure
that's
that
not a-
Seth.
Jamie,
I'm-
yes, Lucas's rant, Jamie, exactly.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Sean Gray and Seth with Huff's herps are both tired of me like randomly sending them pictures
You're
of the
lucky because
lizards
not
in my
fat.
classroom because I'm like, this thing is obese, and both
Oh
of
my
them are like,
gosh.
Katie,
That's
your
how it's
lizards
supposed.
are
That's how it's supposed to
fine.
be shaped. No, but
Right.
but snakes are a big one because the problem is, and we've talked about one reason people overfeed things, especially snakes, is because that's the one time you have to interact with most of your snakes is feeding time for the general people, and so they're like, I get to feed my snake, and so they do it
Right.
all the time. Plus, also they were told when that snake was 3 months old to feed it every week, and now it's 4 years old, and they're still feeding it every week.
Right. Right.
So that does it too. But so we can all agree overweight's an issue. But
Right.
I think as far as some of the key things here, a lot of people's issue is that the general public, not retic keepers, but the general public that shows up to a show with no intent on buying an animal, but then leaves with an animal from that table that has like 50 different species.
Please don't let it be a retic.
And a lot of times it's a retic.
Right.
And so the general public probably doesn't have the knowledge and the ability to keep properly a mainland, or even they're not going to afford they're not buying a super dwarf off of a table like that.
So are
That's-
retics ever an impulse buy for
Always.
people?
Always.
Yeah,
I mean,
always.
if
Oh, really?
we've covered it on our podcast. Like I think like every other episode we talk about not impulse buying. Retics are one of the most heavily purchased. So retics are one of the most heavily impulse bought. I literally have gone to Arlington NARBC and I've seen like a 15-year-old holding a deli cup with a retic in his hand.
Because they're not 12 foot when they buy them.
Right.
So it's
they're little babies.
How quick do
but
they
then-
grow?
But then what's also crazy is that retics are also one of the number one like abandoned, neglected, and like up for adoption snakes that you see out there because people don't realize what they're getting into.
and if you
and
feed them weekly, they can grow.
So a
Some
mainland retic in its first year, without even being overweight, has the potential to already get up to 8 feet.
Yeah.
Maybe
in a
even
year?
in a year.
Wow. Okay.
Super
'Cause I
dwarfs
know
are a
that
lot
was-
different.
Because I know, because James has red tails, and a lot of people are always like, "Oh, that's such a big snake." Da 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 da. And I'm like, yeah, but when they're babies, they can literally fit between like my face and my glasses.
Yeah.
And the
Like they're
problem- the prob-
little, and so I watch them grow, and so they don't freak me out when they're big.
A lot of people like what ends up happening is they're like, oh, this breeder told me the snake can get this big within a year, but it's so tiny now. I'll just get a cage and upgrade it when I need to. And then that need to never ends up happening because they're short on money, whatever the case may be. We're going off on another tangent, and I still have my rant to go on.
This show's full of tangents. We're good.
Yeah, it's fine. Normally
Um,
they're food related, so the fact that we're even on topic is impressive.
Okay, there you go. What's y'all's favorite fast food?
in whatever's in front of me and doesn't have vegetables.
There
God's
you go.
chicken.
God's chicken.
Yeah.
Bro, where's God's chicken?
But do you
Chick-fil-A.
know that they were
Oh my
out of mac and cheese the other day? We got there late, so I
Uh-huh.
didn't get the breakfast like I wanted, and then they didn't have mac and cheese.
I'd rather go to Raising Cane's any day.
Devastating.
Bro, yes.
Mm.
I'm sorry. Don't get me wrong. Love Chick-fil-A. Love the holy chicken. But,
I need
Cane,
God's
cane
mac and
sauce
cheese.
has crack in it.
right. Absolutely. I really do think Chick-fil-A
Zaxby's has a
sandwiches-
salad though,
Why the fuck do I want a salad?
because I like fried chicken
Get the
salad.
fuck out of here. I don't want a salad.
And what pisses me off about fast food salads is they're like $20. And I'm like, really?
No,
Like, I'm
Zaxby's is worth every penny.
No.
That's the one thing they have
I've,
against.
I've
Cane's.
never seen a salad that was worth a penny.
And they also have a sandwich.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Cane's doesn't have a sandwich unless you make
But
it.
Zaxby's doesn't have cane sauce.
This is true.
There's crack in there.
See, we just mentioned the word food,
Food.
God
And
damn it,
we-
Katie.
and we're 5 minutes later.
I took us I took us in there. Also,
He asked us the question. It's
I
his
did.
fault.
I did. Also, I noticed there's a empty
Jamie Rose, shut the fuck up. Those tenders are amazing from Raising Cane's.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I can't agree with that at all. That
Raising Cane's
Yeah.
tenders are.
Super hostile.
I will agree that Raising Cane's fries are shit, but they're allowed to be shit because they have cane sauce, which is so you can scoop the fries in cane sauce.
and you can take the
Also-
bread and the tender and the fries and the sauce and another piece of bread. and
But
make
if
a
you put
sandwich
the
out of it.
fries
if
in
you're-
an
if you're-
air fryer, they're way better.
if you want to go big with Cane's, is you go ahead and you sub. Don't get me wrong, they're cold. They're
no,
sauce
don't get the
good,
coleslaw. Gross.
Don't get the
But
coleslaw.
but you replace it for another bread and
Every
then,
time.
Every
and
time.
then,
I
and
do
then you
extra
have
fries.
Fuck,
you
I know
have
what
a
I'm
s-
having for lunch tomorrow
right.
now.
So you put two
Oh,
chicken
sandwich.
right. You put two chicken
Oh.
patties on there. You drench it in that sauce and you put fries on it.
Fries
and
on
you-
it.
Yeah.
Right. and then-
Yes. I do that all the time.
James does it every time
And
we get it.
So here's what I don't get with Cane's.
If
I
there's
love Cane's,
anything-
but someone there's not fucking thinking. Because if you order a Cane's sandwich, it's completely different bread.
no,
You
true.
already fucking had
So-
bread. Why'd
Go
you
with
out
the
and buy
Texas
different
toast.
bread?
Exactly.
So just for the record, our daughter, so the door is shut. Normally it's not shut, but our daughter is apparently getting ready to take her shower for the night. And she just texted me. She goes, Cane's is a beautiful, godly creation.
Thank you, daughter. I don't know your
And she
name.
was
but
like,
thank
okay,
you.
I'm going to take a shower now. Because I told her like 20 minutes
So
ago to go
if-
take a
if-
shower.
If there's any information on this podcast that I provide you guys that is worth a
Right.
dime, it's that sandwich that I'm talking
Yes,
about.
I've done that many times.
Right.
Okay. Anyways,
okay,
back to
Retics.
Retics growing and getting too big.
This is
So,
great.
so Todd Danielson said, "Welcome to the Chicken Podcast." Oh, I can go on. You want fast food chicken? I can do an entire show on fast food chicken.
We actually did a thing where you and I tried like 6 different chicken sandwiches from places,
Hey
so
guys,
we could like see which one was the better chicken sandwich.
are we doing this again?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Anyways,
hungry.
so Retics, so get on there. But I think most people, their issue is that they, and we'll talk mainlands, right? Because again, the general public's not buying super dwarfs.
That's changing, and I'll talk about that when it's time. But that's changing.
But most of your impulse buys tend to be mainlands or labeled super dwarf at a show, even though it's not really a super dwarf.
Right.
Because
Right.
when they're little, it's very easy to label
Right.
them as a super dwarf when they're a baby.
Yeah. So, I mean, talking about mainlands, and then in the conversation, I will also mention the other side of super dwarfs because there is something to be talked about with them as well. That is both, pros and cons. But what should we address first?
Let's go with the general public buying retics, because that tends to be everybody's problem. Should the general public, is it a pet for everybody because of size? We're based off size because that's really everyone's big issue.
So, well, I'll hit on size, but if it's okay with you, I'll go on my rant in regards to should the general public own a retic in general.
Okay.
Right. And I'm very open about this. I've even said this on my podcast. Absolutely not. And there's a few reasons why. Number one, especially for mainlands, is size. Hold on. Sorry, I had to adjust my mic. I was like breaking my neck trying to talk down into it. So number one, absolutely is size, right? Especially when we talk about mainlands and you have an animal within the first year that you can get up to 8 feet, right? And then there's the mainland breeders out there that don't want to like move over to the super dwarf side that are like, oh, well, you can keep a mainland at 8 to 10 feet and it's fine. All you have to do is feed it, a small meal. And right? But like, is that the purpose of actually keeping an animal, is to restrict its calories? Should I be forcing my snake to not eat what it needs to grow to keep it and stunt its growth? That's a bad way to look at things as well, right? So size is definitely a reason to deter people and why retics are not a good pet. The second reason why retics are not a good pet, feeding response. I hate mentioning this, especially on a public platform, but it was less than 2 years ago when a woman died by an 8-foot retic that constricted around her neck and killed her. We're talking about 8 feet. That's not a big retic.
Yeah.
And that was a food, that's just holding it. And I really don't even know the details of that. But when you have an animal that is fast, it's lean, it's strong as hell, and the number one thing about retics that people are always concerned about are their food response, which is absolutely something that we need to be cautious about. It's just not a good idea to be like, yes, retics are a good pet, but
Keep them hungry.
but every time I open up my enclosure, I need to distance myself or need a tool.
Yeah.
And be right. Like, so any snake that you need a tool in between you and your animal, right? Like a king cobra or a retic. Like, if you need a barrier to make sure that they know you're not food, it's not like a good pet for anybody.
So here's a question for you. I'm interrupting your rant. If it's a snake where you feel like you need to have backup with you, just in case something happens, like for example, you had one that was like demon snake, and my instructions were to stand there with like basically rubbing alcohol just in case it latched on and wouldn't let go.
She was a reptile. She was over 8 foot and she was not friendly.
Yeah.
Right.
But is that considered also? I mean, now granted, James is obviously not a first timer. He's, worked at a zoo and he has way more experience than your typical.
Right. So I actually like props to James for the fact that he's worked at a zoo and he's concerned about an 8-foot retic and he's like, yo, just stand by with alcohol just to be safe. That's great. So yeah, like any snake. So the thing is that size definitely plays a role in if you need a backup, but it's really just knowing the individual, because I have retics that are puppy dog tame, right? That I don't have to worry about that with, that are big, that people would still be like, hey, you probably should have a backup because this snake is really big. But literally I could reach in. I don't, because I believe in just tapping and letting that animal know for sure that I'm not food. But a lot of my snakes, I could reach in and I'm fine. But so I think that's more of an individual characteristic, right? And so as you buy a baby as a hatchling, you'll know by the time that it's 8 to 10 feet if you need a backup, right? Like I have a 14-foot Solaire that I handle on my own to clean out if I need to. She's 14 feet, and there are days where it comes down to knowing your animal. There's days where I open up that enclosure and there's nothing in the world that I can do that I'm getting that animal out without agitating her or without her being hungry. And if she has a dirty enclosure, I'm sorry, but if I'm alone at that time, I'm going to wait a few hours, or I'm going to wait till the next morning, or wait until I have help. But then there's days where like today, or no, yesterday, I opened up her enclosure and she looked over at me, flicked her tongue. I tapped her in the head and she was just like, "What's up?" And I was like, "What's up? Let's hang out." And so I took her out. She was totally chill. She was cool. So like even a 14-foot snake, I'll do on my own. But I'm reading that body language. And
does your wife help if you need backup, or do you have someone else that'll come over? Or
so me and my wife have we have a safe word, and so
we do get into some weird stuff, but that is not where this conversation is going.
So we have a safe word. So what's funny is that she's typically on the other side of the wall. So my living room shares a wall with part of my garage, and so if she hears me yell pineapples. That means to come inside, grab the Listerine bottle that I have hanging on the wall right by the door.
Because now there's a party.
Right? Because now there's a party and I need you to spray that retic in the mouth, or I need you to bite that tail for me. She knows. She knows.
Shit.
She knows.
I've never been instructed to bite.
Hey, bite that tail for me. I'm more of a don't use your teeth kind of person.
Don't use it. But anyways, back to your question, like if an animal gets to a certain size, like generally speaking, best practice is to have a backup. But if you know the animal, you can get away and you know, and it depends on your experience, but I definitely wouldn't discount that as being a good pet or not just off of that soul factor.
So there's a question in the chat that I kind of like. Todd Sanders had a question. In your opinion, what is the minimum size enclosure for a full grown mainland? Because we're talking size, and again, we said you talked behavior and food responses are some reasons the general public, but this I think is also a big reason why the general public is not fit for retics,
right?
especially mainland retics.
Right. So I would say the bare minimum size enclosure for a full grown mainland is back in the wilds in Indonesia. No, just kidding, Todd. So, and again, this is a loaded question because there are full grown mainlands out there that are 13 feet, and you could put them in a 10 by 4 by 3 feet tall, and they'll do fine. Here's the thing is that like enclosure size isn't everything, and I'm rubbing my head because I can see some of the mainland retic people looking at me and they're like F you because I'm speaking against their vision cage propaganda.
You mean they're 6 foot by 2 foot by 18 inches won't work for?
Hey, they have 8 foot visions now. Okay.
Oh, okay.
They're still like 15 inches tall. But anyways,
well, you got to be able to stack 5 of them. So
right. So I think any mainland that you get, even if on a good chance on a full grown 12-year-old mainland, you can still end up with a 12-foot snake, manageable size animal, even though they're heavier body. I still think you need to go bare minimum 10 foot long. And you know, a lot of people are like, let me keep my pure super dwarfs in a 5 foot cage, but with more height to let them go around. But like, if you can give a pure super dwarf 6 to 8 feet of length, like please do it. Like, I don't think there is a minimum size enclosure. Go as big as you possibly can. What I can tell you, Todd, is like, don't cram your snake in a cage. Just don't do it. Like if your snake like looks up at you and like is in a coil and only like a third of its coil loosens and is at the other end, like you're doing something wrong.
Well, like Gollum's demon said 18 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot. And I
like,
think one problem is that's really long. I think if you're talking about full on retics, depth is a big thing too. And height is a big thing too. Because I mean, you look at a big, so like we go to the zoo, when those big retics at the zoo coil up, they're hitting the walls with a 4 footer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I definitely will say that the bigger is always better. There's this mindset with breeders that like, if you like, there's the old school thought that like, I got a wild caught import and what worked for me was making it feel nice and secure in a small enclosure, and it bred for me and produced snakes. So because it's more calm in a small enclosure and because it bred for me, I must be doing something right. We need to evolve from that mindset. The bigger, the better. I don't care if it's a hatchling. I don't care if it's a full-size enclosure. The difference between a defensive retic and a not defensive retic is it feeling secure, regardless of age. So if you have a small snake in a big enclosure, just add enrichment, add hides, add bushes, add plants, do something so that it can feel like it's in the Malaysian jungle inside of a bush where it would normally be. Give it elevation, right? So my answer to all those questions is always going to be the bigger the better. And again, there's like old school breeders that are going to be like, this kid doesn't know what he's talking about, he's a piece of shit, blah blah blah. But no, bigger. Like I actually had someone who bought a Kayuati locality retic from me, which is like, people call them super dwarfs, but they're kind of the perfect in between of a super dwarf and dwarf, right? They're not going to get 15 feet, but they're not going to be like 8 feet full grown, right? They'll be in like that 10 to 12 foot range, depending on lineage. But he asked me like, and these are babies, like hatchlings are 4 or 5 months old. And he asked me like, can I move her up to a CB70 extra large, whatever their like new big one is? And I was like, absolutely, go for it, but just make sure there's enrichment and there's hides and like just right, just make sure that the snake feels secure. So if you could do that with a 20-foot enclosure, if you can do that with a
spare bedroom,
right, a spare bedroom, like that, No, I'm not even joking. When I build this,
Oh no, that's what's so funny about this is like it sounds like a joke when we say a spare bedroom, but it is 100%
no, I'm
not
being
a
legit.
joke.
No, absolutely. Like when I build this garage, I plan to have a 500 square foot section off that I'm going to cycle my females in.
Oh, nice.
And I'm going to allow each of them to go in and to cycle in. And I'm doing shapes here. Sorry. And so,
Like a circle.
right, it's a circle. So I'm going to cycle my females and let them stay in for 2 weeks at a time and allow them to have these bigger spaces. And it's going to be a room that I have plenty of soil and things in, and making sure that obviously it's not going to be subjected to mold and those kind of things. But yeah, absolutely. So bigger the better always, especially for mainlands. Actually, I take that back. Bigger the better always, regardless of mainlands or Superdorf.
Yeah. Todd also said, in your experiences, do you find that you get different reactions, aggression, puppy dog, food responses from larger snakes depending on their enclosure size?
Each individual animal is an individual.
Yeah.
I had a male mainland that was a pusher. I tried a much larger cage for it, still pushed, and then I put it in a smaller cage, stopped pushing. Right. And so when it comes to aggression, so I don't like the word aggressive because retics aren't aggressive. They're not. They're either hungry, think that things are food aggressive, or they are defensive. Right. So,
and they were defensive for a long time.
Yeah.
In the hobby. That's the other thing, is that they have that negative connotation of, because of the 90s and the early 2000s, the retics, like everybody's like, don't get a retic, they're all mean. I'm like, well, a lot of them are imports, you'd be mean too.
Yeah, exactly. If you took me out of my home and you took me away from my tribe and then you stuck me in a box, like,
I'm not gonna like you,
right? Especially
if I'm smart enough to realize things are going on around me.
Right. And what's crazy, I mean, we'll go into like retic intelligence later, but I have some thoughts on that. But anyways, yeah, so let me see here. ADHD kicking in. Let me read this again. So aggression, puppy dog, food response. I love how you spelled dog, by the way. What's up, homie? So if a snake is defensive and you have it in a very large enclosure, good idea to try to include more hides and more security. If a snake is defensive and in a small enclosure, are you reaching in on top from a tub? Right? Change eye level. But I really think it comes from an individual standpoint. Every retic is going to be different. And that's the thing, is people stereotype retics into being a certain way. But one of my most food responsive retics is my wild caught Kalatoa Superdorf that I have. But after I turn off her feeding response and I have her out, bro, you would swear she's a captive bred animal. She is so chill. And so I think it really just depends. So when I guess a way to answer this is go as big as you can with as much enrichment as you can until things go south, and then, kind of add more as you can. But any of my snakes, I will say, that are puppy dog tame, as I've gotten them to bigger enclosures, they've never changed from that. So I really do think it's an individual snake basis.
So, another negative you always, and I think the problem is, one, YouTube doesn't help your hobby because you see it all over the place. I think there are too many people breeding retics. There's a certain one on YouTube that breeds a shit ton of retics, and then I just think that's so many large snakes. Now, granted, like I said earlier, a lot of these snakes unfortunately aren't reaching 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 foot. So they're not all getting there, but they are a snake that lays a lot of eggs, and can have a lot of babies compared to something like a corn snake or a ball python laying 5 eggs. A big clutch of ball pythons, 7 eggs.
Right.
So when we talk about the general public probably doesn't need to own these, so do you think it's on the breeders for producing so many of them that they got to find homes?
That's my biggest issue that I have. Is so retics in general. So I will speak on mainland specifically, are way, way, way overproduced. There's not enough people that can keep them responsibly. So let me just kind of recap the food response, the size of mainlands. And the fact that you can be having a handy dandy time with an 8-foot retic, and if it decides to get around your neck because you're being cool and you're holding it around, it can still accidentally kill you. That's why I check it off as for mainlands as a not a good pet, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think that breeders are overproducing mainlands, because here's the thing. Ooh, a lot of people are gonna hate me for saying this.
Go for it.
So, but guess what? I don't give a shit. So when you have a lot of people are like, okay, number one, mainlands are overproduced, right? But if you have a mainland breeder that has access to a monitor and like is going to like
I see where you're
knows
going.
that they're going to feed these animals to a monitor as they're producing a bunch of animals, but they know that that is going to be part of their monitor's diet, and they do that, and they do it noticeably, and they do it like intentionally. That's like a good thing to control the retic population. There's no difference of keeping rodents, like 1,000 of them, in a freaking 40-quart tub, and we're using them to feed other animals. Like, why is it that we look negatively on doing that with snakes for monitors than doing rodents or rabbits or pigs for snakes? But so part of helping that overproduction, if you have monitors and things like that, you can do that. But at the same time, what ends up hurting the industry is that overproduction leads to a decrease in price because they're not moving.
Yeah.
And then when someone is like, wow, I can have this beautiful purple albino mainland retic for $150, that's a no-brainer. I'm going to buy that right away. And then they don't realize that the snake is probably not at all what they expected.
Well, I think the other problem is, unlike ball pythons, right? Someone was trying to produce whatever color in ball pythons, they're going to get a lot of byproduct in animals that don't have what they want or whatever, that they're going to wholesale. But that's still just an animal that's going to reach 3, 4, 5 foot, and you can
right,
feed
not a problem.
That. So, but the problem is when you're breeding mainland retics for a 1 out of 16 odd, or
that can kill you.
Yeah,
just saying.
There's so many in there that you aren't aiming for that are just a byproduct that are going to have to be wholesale or sold cheap, just so you can get that one snake. And that's, I think, the morphs and retics has led to that issue.
We're seeing it right now, even in the Superdwarf community. I never thought in a million years that when Superdwarfs got popularized in 2017, 2016, I would never think that in this short period of time, there would be an overproduction of Superdwarf retics. But guess what? During this recession, there is a massive market crash where now 75% Superdwarf retics are selling for $700-800. And guess what? My opinions on a retic being a good pet, even as a Superdwarf, doesn't change. You still have a crazy food response animal, for the most part, that still, even a pure Calatoa reticulated python at full length, full growth by 10, 12 years old is still 8 to 10 feet, right? Still big enough to kill you. And they're very hungry. They're just like, are they phenomenal? Let's go to the pros, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
Are they phenomenal animals? Absolutely. Are they worth keeping? Absolutely. Should everyone keep them? No. But if you love them, like if you know a retic is right for me, I've seen one in person, I've held them, I've talked to people with them, and nothing is going to change my mind that I can keep a retic, then guess what? A retic can happen for you. Like, I do think that anybody who is not ignorant and who is willing to learn and grow with their animals can keep a retic if you have the space and you have the time and you can just read typical reptile body language, right? But even Superdwarfs do not make a great pet animal because they can still get to the size of hurting you significantly.
Yeah, they're not. Everybody hears dwarf and they're like, "Oh, it's small."
No,
it's relatively small. It's not.
No.
Yeah,
so dwarfs.
I'm one of those people. I'm like, dwarf. Oh, okay, we're talking like less than 10 feet. But then I realized that it is dwarf in comparison to
even
what
less
the
than 10
adult.
feet. 9 foot is still a lot of snake.
Yeah.
No, so hold up. Superdwarf is a 9 to 10 foot snake.
Yeah.
Dwarf, we're talking about Solaire and Jampea Islands that get 15 feet. I have a Solaire in my garage that is considered a true dwarf that is 14 and a half feet and she's 55 pounds. That's a dwarf retic.
Well, so Todd had a good question. I thought, what does the end game of a big snake tend to involve? So if you have a 20-foot retic that lives its complete lifespan and dies of natural causes, what do you do with it? That's a lot of snake. Like, you can't just be like, just throw it in a garbage bag and throw it in a trash can. Like, that's
Personally, this is going to be a crazy answer. If I had a retic that lived its entire lifespan with me, so let's say 20, 30 years in captivity, and it lived its entire lifespan with me and grew to be a true monster at 20 foot, I'm digging that bitch a grave. I'm getting a tombstone for that thing. That thing lived its life. Like, I am going to do something that respects the hell out of that animal.
I would almost want to tan the hot. Like, our friends at the Underkeeper's Vault, Undertaker's Vault, they do it's not tan, it's like oiled or whatever. But so when you unravel it, it still feels like it's skin. It's not dried up. It doesn't shrivel up at all. But that would just be like, especially if it's pet. I kind of wish, like, so I had a Brazilian rainbow boa that died at 17, and I wish I had caught it and I'd been able to take care of the skin enough and been able to keep the skin, because he was a beautiful animal. I would love to still have that with me.
That's what sucks about snakes. If you don't find them in just a few hours,
especially if they die under the heat.
Yeah, which he probably did.
Yeah. And so like it would be a cool thing to keep, is the skin. I get some people are like, that's demented. How would you keep it? Why would you keep that? But I mean, no, especially at 20 foot. That's
yeah. There's people that get the skin of it and they hang it across a long wall in their garage or their snake room, or I mean, there's a bunch of different things that you can do. If it's a healthy animal, and you're like from the hunting standpoint and you want to recycle everything, like, go ahead and give it a try. Put it on the stove. I don't know. Like, I mean, there's a lot of different things that you can do. And I don't like to, I mean, I'm a therapist on my, my career and my job that I do. And so I don't like to, how you handle death and how you handle processing grief and how you decide to, how you decide to do that. I'm not going to judge you on that. Right. If you want to try to eat it, if you want to bury it and give it a tombstone, if you want to put its skin up on the wall, like, do whatever you want with it. And then, I mean, reach out to the zoo, reach out to your local college to see if there's any research and dissection that they want to do. There's a lot of different ways that you can address that.
It'd be really cool to dissect a 20-foot retic, just because the organs, the lung in that thing, how huge.
It's gotta be.
It's got to be huge. Yeah.
Massive.
Right.
But
anyways, back to the pros, because I ended up ending up on a con with super dwarfs. But they're extremely intelligent animals. And what I mean by intelligent is, like, they're stupid when it comes to food, but like they're also really inquisitive, and their eyes move and they look around and they're able to pick up habits and your behaviors really well. So my Coyote that I've had, that was my first retake that I had, I could tap it on the enclosure 3 times on the side, boom, activates her feeding response. So that way, when I go in without tapping the enclosure and I open up the door, it's not just striking out at whatever it is, right? And so they are super, super intelligent in certain aspects. Again, I think they're really stupid when it comes to thinking everything and anything is food.
It's like the episode before you got on, I was talking about certain things. Like my pine snakes, they get what I call food blind. When they're in eating mode, their brain shuts down. And it's just like, I got to go for food. Right. Strike a thing. Everything around me is food. I got to get it. I got to eat it. And then when they're not thinking about food, it's like, oh, you're a completely different snake.
Right. And so Intrepid Exotics actually mentioned a good point down here in the most recent comment. Retics with the right mentorship and fairly strong person are really incredibly easy to work with. And I couldn't agree more. There are retics that you can get that are literally puppy dog tame, that are like just absolutely phenomenal animals. I'm always cautious about like saying like, yes, they're good pets, because like when you think of a pet, you think of a dog, a cat, a gerbil. You think of things that are relatively safe to keep. And I do, again, even with the super dwarf side of things, there is a danger aspect of keeping retics. And whenever there is a major danger, it probably doesn't make a good pet. Now, yes, you can argue that a dog, statistically speaking, dogs bite more people than snakes do.
There's also more dogs. So
And
that's the problem.
yeah, right. There's more dogs out there. But that reptilian brain that reptiles have, that mammals have a little bit higher level of intelligence and thinking, makes it different. Yeah. And again, they just made another great comment. Retics are like electricity. We use it every day, but unless you're an electrician, you don't open the breaker panel so you don't die. So exactly. That's a beautiful way to describe that.
So Todd had a question. He said, would the morph of the retic have anything to do with the attitude or food aggressiveness? Like you said, now I know that in early times, depending on how close they are, that morph is related to being wild. That did affect a lot of that.
Right.
But do you see anything now with them?
I mean, Pied's a good example of like a morph that people generally speaking refer to as an aggressive morph, but I think it goes down to it's all about length and captivity. The more that you breed Pieds and the more that you continue to do that captain breeding process, you're going to eventually run out of that. Now, I do have a theory in terms of like albinos or Pieds. Like, why were Pieds so crazy aggressive? Like, I don't know. If you think about like the wild caught Pied that was out there, like it had nothing to blend into in the wild. Yeah. So like anything that I came across, it's like, screw you, I'm going to try to kill you before you kill me. And so maybe that has partly to do with that. In regards to, I don't know of many albinos that are aggressive out there, or even if they had that original reputation, but I can say that albinos, generally speaking, don't have a lot of camouflage. So they could be more, apt to be defensive.
Well, especially one that made it, the ones that were less defensive, we
didn't see. So yeah, I do think it's, it starts off with morph because they are freshly imported, but I think eventually as you get down the line of captive breeding, a lot of people talk about how puppy dog tame tigers are. Well, yeah, that's because tigers have been kept in captivity. Yeah, it's been around since early 90s, and maybe even the first one was imported. I'll talk to Bob about this, but I don't know, 1998 or 88 or 94, I don't know, but whatever. Tigers have been around forever. That's why tigers are that's why they even have like stupid tongues, and some of them don't even stick their tongue out far. It's because they've been kept around so long and it came from one tiger animal that they're all crossbred, inbred, right?
Yeah. That was your topic for y'all's next show that I was going to steal for this show.
Oh, on Friday. Yeah.
For inbreeding. But that's across the whole thing. That's
1992. Yeah. Nice. See, year that I was born.
Yeah, that's somewhere not long after that is the picture of Bob with the big ass tiger on the cover.
Did you just say you were born in 92? Is that what he just said?
He did.
Yeah.
I did.
I was 12.
Yeah, definitely conditioned more than tamed, Lee. Definitely for sure. I don't want to say that any snake is like tame.
Yeah.
Right. They're definitely they tolerate us. At the end of the day, these snakes are just like, whatever.
So I think
I feel like that's a lot of our reptiles, though, that they're conditioned to tolerate us.
Yeah.
Some just don't condition as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's kind of like with our friend that does the falconry. Some birds.
Yeah, her kestrel did not want to condition as well.
Well, the kestrel is a holy terror.
Bro, I grew up with an Amazon parrot that hated me.
I don't like parrots. I like having fingers, so I'm not a fan of parrots.
Right.
So I think in the end, when it comes when we're talking about retics, and we can bring up anything else, but I think we're all on the same page. They are like any other animal. They can be a good pet in the right situation. I mean, look, we talked about before you got on Texas. We got a bunch of fucking people own tigers. I don't think a tiger is a good pet. I can't think of a time where I'm like, that's a great pet, but it's definitely not a good pet for 99.9.9, even more, almost 100% of people, right?
Yeah, I definitely don't want to keep a tiger.
Yeah, so, but some people can keep them, and so retics are great. Are retics, should they be a great
example? Yeah.
Should retics be the pet snake? No, that's why ball pythons exist. I fucking hate ball pythons, but if you want a million different color patterns and all that, you can do that in something that's not going to get 13 foot, that you don't have to feed 5-pound rabbits to.
But let me also tell you this. I've kept a bunch of different species of snakes. Yes, I was younger, but if you are a person for a retic, one of the best snakes you can keep. Yeah. They are just so rewarding to keep. When you have an animal that's 12, 13, 14 feet, even a super dwarf that just has that much intelligence, that is willing to have that relationship with you, that mutual respect, where like you look it in the eye and you're like, I respect you, and they're like, I don't care about you, but I don't hate you, right? when they do that, it's a great symbiotic. Like it's the most rewarding thing ever. And I haven't kept monitors. I'm going to soon, so we'll see how it compares, because a lot of people are like, oh, if you think a relationship with a retic is great, try a monitor. I'm looking forward to that. But retics are literally just like, when you have that connection with your retic, even on their bad days, like you and your retic are just like, you're cool.
Well, just some snakes just they think more than others. And I've had the chance to look into the eyes of several snakes. That black mambas, I've looked into the eyes of black mambas. They're like retics. They look at you, they look around, they know what's going on.
Bro, they see through you.
Yeah. Like
same with king cobras.
King cobras.
Right.
You know, someone that owns a ball python or a corn snake, don't give me, as far as intelligence goes, they're just dumb. They're not.
You
they're
are
fine.
never
they're not
going
even,
to understand
but
what
they're
it's
not-
like
but
to
there's
have
not-
a
there's not
snake
this
see your
problem
soul.
solving going
so
on.
hold up. They're not dumb because they've survived this long, right? They're just stupid.
I mean,
Yeah, there you go.
Hognoses has survived this long too, and I've watched Hognoses, and they
It's
dumb.
like I know tons of people with college degrees who are stupid.
Right.
yeah.
So
That's
so
very
let me
dumb.
say
I love
this.
my daughter.
They just they I will say this. In captivity, ball pythons can be a little dumb or stupid, but I will agree with you on the I got to handle my first hognose like not too long ago at my buddy Phil's place here in Arlington. And I was holding it and I was like, do you even know how to slither?
Mhm.
Do you know how to move? I was like, hey, is it like doing this weird thing where it's going to chomp on my hand? It's like, no, that's just how they move. And I was like, oh, these things are interesting.
You should
Yeah.
see them when you feed them. They bite the tub, they bite the substrate, they bite themselves.
I've seen that happen before.
And
Oh,
they're like,
I've seen videos of hognoses literally
Yeah.
eat themselves.
yeah, and they're like, oh, there's the mouse. I think I'll eat that from the ass now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just I think if no one's ever been around some of these species that we consider quote unquote more intelligent, and I don't think it's what they're just thinking. There's a different problem solving part of their brain that's going on when they're functioning.
Right.
If you haven't been around that, it's hard to understand. But I mean, you can look like you said, you can look into the eyes of a retic and they move. Like they look at you, they look at what's past you, look around you, they know what's going on.
I wonder if that has to do just like an evolutionary process where these animals got bigger. They found themselves towards humans earlier in life, back in evolutionary stage, and they needed to adapt in order to survive and be more aware of surroundings. This is me going off on like a tangent on like just theory, but I'm wondering if it has anything to do with that aspect. Like same with king cobras.
Because I've looked into the eyes of an anaconda, and there's not much going on there in a green anaconda. It's a big old lump.
Oh yeah, but they're in the water and they're in the Amazon away from people.
Yeah, that's true. They're just sitting there waiting for something to come past their face and drown it. They're just
Right,
looking to drown
but
themselves.
retics are in the forest where tribes and people live. And actually, no, that's ignorant to say. That happens in the Amazon too. So I don't know what the
but
fuck
retics are
I'm
also actively hunting. They're an ambush predator who will actively go look for. They move more than a green anaconda is going to, right? A green anaconda will sit there in the water at the water's edge for fucking forever.
Or like there's been some gaboon vipers that have been like, they've documented them like 40 plus days without moving.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I guess I was
talking
about talking to my mic.
So so some of these animals move more. Now they're not when I say they're an active hunter, they're not an active hunter like rat snakes or like
Yeah, they don't hold
racers
guns or
they're not hunting them down or anything, but they definitely are more on the move looking for stuff. So like I said, it's and I've wanted to retic for a long time, but then I realized I'm smart enough to go, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I know what the setup I have isn't going to do it.
I have some Calatoas available.
Nope. I know that I can't do it.
I don't know what that is, but I like that he said no.
It's a pure super dwarf.
I don't hear no a lot from him, so it's a beautiful thing.
Sure, you have like. As
I can get you.
I
get you.
Let me say this. Let me start over.
I can get you a male Calatoa that I have of a brand new bloodline who is going to be much more manageable and easier to keep than a boa.
I don't hear him say no about things he likes often, and it's beautiful.
I do. So I will say something about mainland.
He's never said no to sex.
Depends. Sometimes there's something.
Sorry.
You know,
depends on what team's playing.
Yeah,
right. Are the Braves on? Go Braves.
But I will say the one cool thing about big snakes, so big retics, big berms, is the head. If you've never had a chance to hold the head of a full-grown 15, 16, 17 foot snake, It's insane.
Yeah.
My buddy had an 18-foot male berm, and its head is just massive.
How are you holding the head?
Just like this.
Okay,
Okay.
so I'm just saying that Amanda has a point.
Wait, what?
Man, it really
I
does
love
have a
how
good
she
point.
says, "Don't come at me, James," but she has a point. So go ahead and throw that up on the screen.
Is this the one right there? Where it's
Yeah, that one right there.
Oh,
Honestly,
want me to read it?
that's actually a good point.
All right. So,
So she says that Amanda thinks that the ball python is the smartest snake in the world. The reason is they're the only ones that protect their heads with all their might.
not true. Not true.
Bill said that green trees do it.
Calibars do it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
green tree pythons will do it. It's definitely observed.
Sambos can't do it because they're too fat to coil up. So
No.
don't
Hold
leave
on,
my
but
Sambos
can we just move towards the idea that protecting your head's a good idea, so therefore they're not just like stupid?
They're not just a dumb
Or-
rock.
or it's just a natural instinct, and the ones that were even dumber got eaten. And
Yeah.
maybe it's not that fascinating
Right.
because it's still a ball python.
Yeah.
And I can't admit that ball pythons are.
So I tend to try to stay away from like the smart versus not smart because again, like retics
It's very
are-
subjective.
retics are very because the way that we measure smart is like by human smart.
Yeah.
And so we're observing a retic and we're saying, oh, they have characteristics.
No,
like
I'm a
us.
high school teacher. I measure smart on a completely different scale.
Right, like A scores and you know and SATs and
could they get to school? Can
Right.
they tie their shoe?
are they coming to class high and are they high and still getting good grades? And you're very smart, right? And so no, totally. But I will say that ball pythons, just like every snake that's out there, has stood the test of time. So they do have some form of ability to survive. And when you're a reptile, if you can survive and evolve, you got what it takes, right?
Yeah.
But I want to highlight a question. I don't know if you want to pop it up or not, but I want to ask.
Where's it at?
Let me see. Todd asked it. Todd.
There's two Todds. Is it this one? What is the best
What
way?
is a
There
yeah
we go.
to I guess guarantee that you end up with a big snake that's not going to be super aggressive, and I can ask because of the people who have young kids like us. Okay, so
I don't think there is a way.
so there are things that you can do. So number one, buy a hatchling. Don't buy a big snake and take the breeder's word that it's puppy dog tame.
when it's cold at the show.
No
Right.
joke.
Number two is buy something that has been captively bred. Like if you're going to get a mainland, a tiger, a motley, these morphs that have been around for a while are a good option. That have been just captively bred, and again, if it's a pet and it's been inbred but it's healthy and it's fine, and you're not going to breed this animal, you get something that has just been captive bred for several generations. Number three, work with it as a baby. Touch its head, get it away from being head shy. And I think that you'll see that most mainlands that are captive bred in today's world, and I will say this, majority, like much more than 51%, can be puppy dog tame if you are willing to put the work into them.
Yeah.
Don't let
Makes
your
sense.
don't let your 10-year-old take the snake out of the cage, because again, the food response is what we have to worry about. But once that snake is out, knows it's not being fed, it can be chill. But I guess what I like to tell people is if you want a snake that's going to sit in your lap and be, a lap dog,
It's not a-
retic is not the right animal
retic.
for you. Don't get me wrong. There are people like Ed over in Europe that have great examples of animals that can be retics, that can be like that. But generally speaking, retics are not the pet to just sit down and hang out with, because retics are always on the move.
I want to go back. Todd Danielson said 18-foot male. Yeah, it was an 18-foot male burn. I measured it myself because I didn't believe it. But it was also one of those that was overfed for a long time. Not by the guy that had it, but by the previous people. It weighed like
Oh yeah, he put it on a hardcore diet. when he
200
got it.
pounds. And,
Damn, that's a big animal.
yeah, he just basically had to starve it at one point. It was like, and he had to screw it into the cage because it just kept popping the door off. So he had to get these long screws to hold the door in place because it was just,
Jeez.
Yeah.
it was just a bunch of fucking snake.
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
Typically, if a big snake like that is popping the doors off, you don't have it in a big enough enclosure.
Yeah. He didn't have one at that time because they They're like, here, I don't want it anymore. Here's this 18-foot male.
Jeez.
Yeah, he took it out one time. I was like, that's a huge female. He goes, that's a male. It's a really fucking huge male.
So a lot of people, like, of course, retics are dimorphic, but a lot of people think that males are like significantly smaller. But there are 15, 16-foot retic males out there. Like, if you think that getting a male is going to guarantee you get a small animal, you're wrong. It's not.
That's the other thing is when getting something, assume it will get to the biggest size that species can get to.
Always.
And then
Like,
add
when,
2 feet.
when right, and then like when people buy Kalatoa Superdwarf retics and they're like, oh, this snake is going to max out at 8 foot. Like, no, you need to be thinking 10 foot.
That's like, all right, I'm going to go buy a Clydesdale, but I'm sure it won't get bigger than a Shetland pony.
Right. Do you have horses?
No.
Oh, I'm jealous.
No, that's a lot of poop. I don't trust horses.
Wait.
They paralyze Superman.
That's true. Damn.
See, horses are evil. They paralyze.
Yeah, I'm afraid of height.
I've had horses my entire life up until about 5 years ago.
Horses are freaking phenomenal. Equine therapy with doing horse therapy is great, but they're just, they're like, you can buy a horse for $300, but the vet bills and the feeding is ridiculous.
I mean, I kept $2,000 in the bank at all times for vet visit because because horses like to fucking just find new ways to kill themselves.
Right.
They're like, hey, look at this fence post. Let me rear up and impale myself on it. And or let me eat this food that I shouldn't eat and get colic. And let me spend all your money.
So speaking of pets that not everybody needs to own, people see things like that, or they see like you'll go buy a yard, someone has a zebra, and people are like, I want a zebra. And that's one of those animals that's easy enough to buy. If you can find you a livestock auction, you can own a fucking zebra.
Oh,
What
yeah.
they don't
There's
understand
one
is
not far from here.
no, there's not.
Right
It's
over
right down the road. But the problem is they don't understand is that zebras aren't fucking horses.
No.
They will pick you up and literally throw you across a yard.
Some
with
guy
their
got his
mouth.
arm ripped off by one the other day.
Yeah. They're not a fucking horse, but
I didn't realize they were that violent.
yeah.
they're horrible.
They got to fight lions.
That's true.
They are not a domesticated animal, but that's people see it and other people have them. Like, I can get it for cheap, and they'll get it. So it's kind of like the same with I'm not saying retics are gonna rip your arm off, but accidents happen with retics, and if you're not prepared for that because you think that it's going to be because you see on YouTube this giant, overweight, very lazy, laid back retic, and you go, I can do that. That may not be what you get, and it should also not be what you get because yours shouldn't be that fat.
Right.
But, so.
Right.
You see Lee saying hopes when they get Parson again, they want to get some Parsons chameleons that he can grow them to the size of small dogs. So I'm guessing Amanda didn't see the listing on Morph Market last weekend. That he was like, hope she doesn't see this.
Way to throw him under the bus.
I didn't say anything. It's gone now. Maybe.
Yeah. So are retics a great pet? Like, not really, but if you are willing to, like, if you know what they are about, you know that they can get big, you have the space to keep them, and you can give them some exercise outside of an enclosure. Because again, a lot of people talk about cage size. But here's the thing is you can get away with a 15-foot snake in a 10-foot enclosure, but if you're taking it out, 2 to 3 times a week in the backyard and you're letting it roam and get some exercise, like
You're not just gonna let it free roam your house?
Oh my God, James, shut up.
not with a 2-year, not with a 2-year-old right now.
I cannot tell you how many people, when they find out how many animals we have, they're like, you just let them roam. I'm like, no, you moron. We don't
Dude,
let them roam around our house.
Ever since I've had my daughter, she's 2 years old.
I was going to ask you, when did it start? Because the
when
second
we
people
got
found
pregnant-
out I was pregnant,
When we
The
got pregnant-
moment my wife was
they
pregnant.
found out
It was like, so are you getting rid of your snakes? No, I'm gonna buy more. What the fuck are you talking
Right,
about?
like,
Right.
like
I'm
as a
not
matter
getting
of
rid of
fact,
my dog.
I got
had a
3
pit
on the
bull
way.
at the time. They
Yeah.
wanted me to get rid of my pit bull. I was
listen,
like,
I can go
no.
into pit bulls for days. Pit bulls are literally the sweetest dogs
Yes.
ever.
Got a stupid one
Not
downstairs.
the smartest all the
No,
time.
they're stupid. They're the only dog that's more stupid is a bulldog, or not a bulldog, a boxer.
Yes.
It's the only dog that's more stupid.
That is legit.
But all right, so we are past the 2 up now.
We are. I'm
we just-
hungry.
We didn't get to our other questions, so I guess next week's gonna have to do our other
Do
questions.
you want me to like bullet train this? Like,
Yes.
You want another question?
Well, our other one, I'll get through it real quick. Which is, what is the largest negative and positives about breeding reptiles? And a lot of them are kind of the same. Just people breeding things and for weaker animals. They're not breeding for weaker animals, but they're breeding for a certain trait that you know is going to lead to weaker animals, which
Right.
goes into your inbreeding talk y'all are going to have at your next podcast.
Yep.
The other big thing with negatives were people not being responsible breeders, which we talked about. People not, especially with retics and with certain animals, and any animal, not giving people the right information, which happens way too often. And I kind of want to go back to, are retics good for everybody? I don't think there's any reptile you can say that's a great pet for, and a blanket statement for everybody. Like there's not, bearded dragons are not a great pet for everybody.
Dude, bearded dragons are much more complex than people realize.
Like it's a tricky thing to keep. So like, I think we get into this whole what is the cookie cutter reptile for everybody, and we put like 4 or 5 different reptiles into that and go, yeah, anybody can keep any of these. No, if you suck at keeping an animal alive, it's not going to change anything. Another set of big negative is the morph market, not to be confused with morph market, but they're talking about morphs in general, which I think kind of is a negative towards mainland retics. I think that's one thing that drives there being so many of them.
We're working on it on the Superdwarf side of things. I do have some pairings that are going to be happening real soon with Superdwarf and Ocelot. So Ocelot's a really big gene right now. But yeah, I mean, pros and cons of breeding. I mean, especially from a breeder's perspective, pros like the first moment that you get to actually experience eggs hatching.
Or live birth.
Or live, yeah, it's
fucking amazing.
It's the best feeling in the freaking world.
But the
whole damn neighborhood
the problem
finds
is it's
out we're
not
having
just
babies.
the first time. It's
Every
every
time.
time.
Let me tell you, it's a lot. It's a lot less stressful than the hospital ER nurse or not ER nurse, but the hospital nurse telling you like, "Hey, hold your wife's leg and help her, push this baby out." That's traumatic. Hatching.
They wouldn't let him watch my C-section.
I tried to watch and they shoved me back down in my chair.
C-sections are rough. But I will say, just like being able to facilitate the creation of life with another species is the most rewarding thing in the world. The downside to breeding is, in my biggest opinion, with every single animal out there, is overpopulation.
Yeah. There's too many humans. We got to get rid of some of them.
Well, it sounds like we're going to have you back on again, because I know there's a lot that James wanted to talk about that we didn't get to tonight.
Next time we'll get him and Nathan on at the same time.
There you go.
Oh, that'll be fun. I'll come on. Like, if you guys want me on whenever, I'll come on. I can talk retics and snake in general.
I've learned a lot tonight.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys.
If anybody wants to listen to y'all,
yeah,
what's the best way for them to do that?
All right. So the Retic Lounge on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. You can follow me individually at lab_exotics_ on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook on there. For any of you that are like even contemplating a retic or just want to learn about retics, we have a Patreon at the Retic Lounge that at the cheapest is $5 a month. You gain access to our Discord that has over 50 members and that is extremely active. So active that I've had to silent my notifications. Love you guys, but it's popping. Come on, learn a bit. If retics aren't for you, you leave. If they are for you, you can stay and hang out. So that is patreon.com/Retic Lounge.
I may steal that idea because we have a Patreon and we never have anything, but a Discord with all of our listeners would be fun.
If you have a Patreon, I can't highly recommend a Discord channel to allow your community to just blossom and mess around with each other, get to know each other. It's a great atmosphere that we have.
It would be good for the people that aren't on Facebook too.
Right. Yeah, it's a way to connect and learn and talk shit, talk snakes.
I'm good at talking shit.
Right.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. So on that note, go Yankees. Appreciate you guys for having me on.
Gross. Gross.
If you want to, don't forget to check out
LoneStarReptileRacks.com.
Yeah, and real quick,
that is not my website.
It's Ellis Reptile Racks.
Son of a bitch. I even do the voiceover for you.
I've had a lot of people on our Patreon that have been active in this chat. Just want to say thank you guys so much for being on, listening, and supporting. Appreciate you all.
Yeah, thanks for coming on over. If you came over from there, please give us a like and should I do the whole
enter for the giveaway?
Maybe that's the thing. I need to get into the whole smash the like button and hit the subscribe.
I will slap you with my flip flop.
Hey,
don't hate that. We do it.
No,
we hit the ding-a-ling bell.
No,
hey,
sir.
When you type in on Google how to make your podcast grow, it says to do that. So do it.
Smash hit
James
poke,
Lewis, I'm
tickle,
going to smash,
do all the
hit,
things
and poke you in the
to listen to us.
You dry hump the like button.
I'm
Fuck that like button.
I'm gonna be jumping on your guys' Patreon tonight. And I'm excited for that. You guys have a great podcast. Prior to me being on, I caught up on some episodes.
Thank you.
Really love what you guys are doing. It's a really fun atmosphere.
when he has all of his co-hosts, we are pretty fun to be around. But
it's a great show.
Also, don't forget, anybody out there, our monthly giveaway. Don't forget, go over to our Facebook page.
yeah,
All you gotta do is tell us your favorite episode we've done. It could be this one. Share the link, which will be up for this one by Thursday.
it'll probably be about Thursday because
Uh,
now we don't have anything else for you for this week.
Share it on your social media, and then go give our sponsor for the giveaway, Colossal Constrictors, a like on Instagram or Facebook, and you can win a Herbstat thermostat, a free Herbstat thermostat. All you do is those three things. At the end of the month, we'll do a drawing, and
we can't win it, so
someone
needs
that's
to
not
win it.
someone that's not us gets to win a awesome Herbstat thermostat.
Right.
Which
And for those of you that are not liking, commenting, or subscribed, hit the notification bell for the Reptile Gumbo podcast. Go ahead and comment down below on your thoughts. Okay. I'll throw out that out there.
Do all that stuff. So, Lucas, thanks for coming on. If you'll hang out a second, everybody else, good night. We will see y'all back next week. I'm looking forward to next week's show.
Bye.
It's gonna be a good one.
Appreciate all of you.
Somebody had a great idea.
You did. You had a great idea. So we'll be back next week, and good night.